We had Anna on. Very interesting pivot that she's been making. You and her have a bit of history.
Maybe I was wrong about Dave Rubin.
What's your response?
So look, an apology probably, I would say, would be warranted.
I'm not like Dave Rubin, a giant sellout fraud
Wow.
who changed all of his positions and is totally useless.
I want to say based Cenk, but...
And I want an apology from you for all the crazy, outrageous lies that you told about the Young Turks. When is that going to happen, huh? When are you going to admit that you changed all your positions for money?
Get on your filthy knees and pray to Allah because you aren't welcome on the right and you aren't ever going to find redemption.
You can pull up the clip tomorrow if you want.
Okay.
I was talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you shouldn't hire people based on their genitals or their sexual orientation. And we now all know that. You have been one of the prime pushers of all of this neo-racism.
Neo-racism. Oh my God. It's just all Russia, middle guy Russia, this lady Russia, Dave Smith, half Russia, and who knows where Cenk's brain is. Is the cuck mainstream media just a reflection on the mood of the country? We went to red because people are mad about inflation, so should we just pray Trump fucks up enough so that they swing back blue? Yeah, maybe we might. This media environment is just so bad. Like, even when I try to explain to like real life friends and shit, I feel crazy. I only feel crazy because I will introspect, because when I'm talking to other people, I'm like, no, you have to understand these people are all crazy. But if you think about it, when you're saying everybody else is crazy, it makes you feel crazy. So you should feel crazy, unless you're like so arrogant that you just automatically assume that you're correct over however many people. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, when I'm literally watching like ex-governors posting videos of the night sky and they think stars are drones, what do you think is the best way to combat this media environment from a viewer standpoint? The issue is that when I'm looking into like even the alternative media sphere, I just don't know. I feel like super on an island, and it's not like a good feeling. Like even when I look at people that I could, because I tried to consider like, okay, I understand Cenk's media strategy. You find alliances where you can find alliances, and then you kind of like build commonality from there so that you can expand to other audiences. But I just don't know if I can compromise that much. Like I already feel bad enough over the Candace Jordan and Ben Shapiro convos. Like it just doesn't feel good. I don't feel good about those conversations. And then now to have to like try to build bridges, and it's even crazier. It's even worse. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. Some states don't require you to go to law school to take the bar exam. Maybe, but they require like 200 hour or whatever, like equivalent. They require tons of hours of like, you have to spend time, not volunteering, interning, working in like a law office or a court or something. It's, do you need to build bridges, at least for purists? It feels like they keep calling you in for the content. Do I need to build bridges? I mean, I don't need to. I mean, well, need to for what? I can always have some impact. It's just like what level of impact. Just this media environment just feels like it just feels like insane to me. It feels crazy to me. And or I could just like drop the Vyvanse and just go back to like more variety of content, like bring back the drama and shit. So there's like more variety of stuff. As I've dove deeper into like just like reading and research, like things feel significantly stupider than they were before. I guess like before, I would consider myself one of the more knowledgeable people in the debater space, just doing whatever bullshit reading I did just because the standards are so low. But now after doing more research, now it feels like really, really stupid. It feels really dumb. Delve deeper? Oh yeah, delve deeper. You need to work hard with Brian Tyler Cohen and that space. I haven't explored Brian's stuff enough, but the only thing I worry about is that there are like, it's hard to find people that exist in a bubble that disagree with me on topics that I would consider legitimately like disagreeable topics. So like, for instance, like, I can have conversations with people and I can tolerate some level of disagreement, but like, so Kyle Kulinski, I think, is the best example. I think that when it comes to a lot of domestic policy things, I think that Kulinski is to the left of me on probably quite a bit of it, but like, it's acceptable. Like, I think reasonable minds can disagree on a lot of stuff like that, like Ekpunobi. And there's a couple others like in that like sphere that are like to the left of me, but that's okay. I can tolerate that. But then like foreign policy takes come up and it's like, I can't co-sign or be involved. I don't even want to be anywhere remotely near these things. Like if somebody starts dropping these foreign policy takes near me, I have to like go nuclear. It's just insane. I think focusing on building up other people as part of a larger media company can help and be interesting maybe. Well, the problem isn't just the supply. So like I'm technically like the supply there and I can induce like a little bit of demand, but I just don't think there's not like a huge, like there's a ton of demand for what I do for like a single person. And so far, like obviously I'm successful and I do good on my own, like as that, but in terms of like a large part of the media sphere, I don't know how much demand. like if I had to like ballpark I'm trying to think, if I had to ballpark my footprint on like YouTube politics, people that would be like amenable, is that the word I'm looking for? I don't even know how big the total space is. Like I feel like it'd be like around like 1 to 3% maybe. And obviously if I'm the only one occupying that space, it's obviously really good for me. But if I just start filling it, like if the space were to fill with more people similar to me, I don't know if it's like ever expanding. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is the problem the medium, i.e. video content, is just more stupid than written? No, written content can be really stupid as well. But I mean, you always have to adapt to new mediums, right? What, like radio came out and that was a huge thing. You have to adapt to radio. TV came out, you got to adapt to TV. Like, yeah. Start evil maxing. Use your death note skills to manipulate the media environment from the inside. I think that there are strategies down that road, but they're too compromising, I think, on what I would care to do. Do you feel a responsibility to be a voice of reason in the coming chaos? I mean, like a little bit, but also like realistically, like as an individual lone person, I'm not going to be like shifting huge demographics or swaths of people. The thing that worries me about your media company thing is I feel like you demand some ideological purity around certain issues like foreign policy that would make it hard for you to find content creators who are not just copy pasting you on everything, and then why bother? That's not true though. It's hard for me to just find anybody that just knows anything. Like there are pro-Palestinian arguments if people engaged factually that I would be okay with. Even if I would disagree with them, I'd be like, okay, sure. Like, at least you're like engaging with the facts, right? Like if you Israelis came there, well, Europeans came there, they shouldn't have. 48 war happened. There's been an indefinite occupation. It doesn't look like that's going away anytime soon. Israel is arguably inheriting, or is arguably furthering at least an apartheid-like situation to where they simultaneously want to expand into occupied territory. But the only way the expansion into the occupied territory is legal is if it's not considered occupied territory. So they want to have it both ways. Israel doesn't represent the greatest strategic interest for the United States anymore. If we had to choose between just having Israel or having every other Arab state in the region aligned to us, perhaps choosing every other Arab state would actually be better. You kick Israel out. You get rid of a giant schism in the Middle East that turns people against the U.S. You remove a lot of the incentive for those people to not like us. There's arguments down there where, but nobody. I don't think I'm making these arguments up on the fly. I've never heard anybody make these arguments before. All the arguments on the other side are just so fucking retarded. Like Israel bad, you bad, go back to Brooklyn. It's like, okay, you're like rope. But I'm pretty sure Lonerbox, I think I'm pretty sure he disagrees with me on a few things prescriptively and descriptively, on Israel Palestine. But I've never felt like he's like a crazy person, you know? Or like a lunatic or an idiot. I just want people to read and then have like an underlying grasp of the facts and then fight from those grounds. That's all I want. Is that too much? That's like my ideological purity. It's just like engage with the material. I feel like you would actually just really enjoy academia. Maybe. I mean, it would depend on the space, but I'm sure academia probably has all of its own like political, like office politics, corporate politics type of stuff as well. So I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, geez, the country is just like insane right now. I guess we'll see how these next 4 years go. Why do you think people avoid engaging with the material? I think that people have a view of the world that is part of like a group they belong to. And then when you venture out into the world, you're just kind of like looking for stuff that agrees with that view. So not only are you looking for stuff that agrees with that view, I've said this many times, this is all like incentives, right? Like if you're a person and you go out into the world, there's going to be like some content that you disagree with. There's going to be some content that you agree with. And most people, because you don't have the background to like differentiate between what is like true and what's not true, because most people don't know what like the intricacies of fucking monetary policy or foreign policy, whatever. And I wouldn't expect most people to, right? So like, you know, some people might go this way, but like most people are going this way, right? And once you start getting information in this environment, once you start listening to these types of people, like you're immediately kind of roped into all of the other kind of thoughts and ideas. like from people in this environment. I think this is very similar, in my opinion, to how like cults work. And it's why it's so hard to break people out of cults if they're still in the cult itself, right? Because even if every now and then they happen to bump into an opinion where they're like, oh, you know what? I haven't considered this before. As soon as they finish like contemplating this opinion, they're back in the cult, right? And then they're back in their media environment where they're like getting all these, you know, reinforcing opinions from this whole group of people. And there's just not much like, there's not really any reward at any point of this. None of this is selecting for true or false. It's just selecting for kind of like what reinforces my personal, not even what reinforces, it's like what makes me happy, what satisfies me. Like when I go out and I look for content, like what do I want to watch, right? Like if I'm like I guess, I don't know, because I don't consume content this way, but it seems like it. Like if I'm like a normie political person and I'm going on YouTube, and let's say I'm a person who watches like Timcast, right? Well, I'm going to come on and I'm going to watch this. If you're
dumb enough.
And like, what am I turning this on for right now? Am I really turning this on with the desire to learn something? Or am I turning this on because I want to hear a guy say what I want to hear, right? I'm never having a belief challenged on any of these shows, right? I'm never hearing anything that's like kind of confrontational to the things that I believe. I'm using the right wing as an example, but it's pretty true of the left wing as well, right? I'm never hearing anything like confrontational here or anything that challenges me. It's just stuff that kind of like makes me feel good about myself and like reinforces my view of the world. So the issue that you run into is if you have two people that are, you know, in this environment, and one guy can give you even more things that make you feel good about yourself versus another guy, this guy is like always getting more views, even if he's not factually true. And so there's nothing about this media environment that selects for people that are more honest or more factually correct, unless the non-factual stuff or the incorrect stuff eventually like roots into something that is measurable and there's like a consequence for being unfactual, right? Incorrect. But there's not, because you can just lie about everything and nobody ever really gets caught and nobody really reduces anything to any kind of like consequence. So like, why not just keep lying? And these media environments are just so obnoxious. I think what's frustrating is the lack of genuine nuance in these discussions. Finding someone who provide genuine critiques towards Israel and the Palestinians. Yeah, but who cares about genuine nuance, right? Like you have to be like a nuance enjoyer. And it almost feels like at that point, you're just like selecting for another political bubble of things that make you feel good. And the thing that makes you feel good is like the nuance enjoying. But it's not necessarily, but like this is a small subset of people who are almost politically relevant, I guess. I don't know, it just feels stupid, but. Bitcoin CEO, is this guy like a regular on the show now? God, this guy was something, okay. Anyway.
He is anti-war and highly suspicious of institutions. They support homegrown manufacturing jobs and the working class. Above all, they're very good at selling a vision of how things could be better for everyone. Right now, that all sounds a lot like, well, MAGA. Voters clearly agree. Black voters, Latino voters, young voters, working class voters, and voters with no college degree have all flocked to the big red tent. Even First Lady Jill Biden now appears to love Trump and loathe Harris as much as anybody. But the big problem with big tents...
just to remind you, because him and everybody else, they always present this as like a fucking blowout landslide victory. Oh fuck, even I've been saying 3 or 4 million. This election was like about 2.3 million votes between the two candidates. 48.4% versus 49.9%. About 2.5 million votes, or less than 2.5 million votes between both, yeah. Do you find your community much different than what you've described? Don't you think most of us are here because you align with their political beliefs one way or another, and they're here for the same reason someone would go and watch Tim Pool all day? No, I feel like my community is a bit different than that. I'm not saying that everybody's like a bastion of like free speech or whatever, but I think the difference is that one, when you come to my stream, you're not getting like, this is what progressives think, or this is what conservatives think, or this is what centrists think, or this is what whatever. And then two, I think that there are things that my community does disagree with me on, which is fine. As long as they're not autistic about it. How did you do it when most people just watched it and not be challenged? How are you successful? One is a lot is on presentation, obviously because it's fun to watch me bully people. I'm decently entertaining. And the second thing is there are some people that like care about, you know, particular types of discussions or factual discussions or whatever. Like, there are some people that care. But I'm just saying it's not like a large part of the media, or it's not a large part of the population, I think, yeah.
We'll debate this and more with a star.
Dustin, you literally, deliberately, intentionally purge your community of differing viewpoints and perspectives while proclaiming that you will never believe what they believe, and the belief can be UBI and free college. No. I don't think I've ever banned people for being UBI or free college supporters, but okay.
Our panel, all of whom have copped a public backlash for shifting their positions. But I'll begin with the OG of the political trans movement, Dave Rubin, creator and host of the Rubin Report. He wants to respond to my recent interview with his former colleague, Ana Kasparian. Well, Dave, great to have you on Uncensored. So look, we had Ana on. Very interesting pivot that she's been making in the last few months. But obviously you and her have a bit of history. And in the interest of fair-minded balance, this is your chance to say what you want to say by way of response to her.
Sure. You know, funny, I enjoyed your intro there. I guess I did sort of get on the trans thing early. It just wasn't about my genitals.
Verdict on Piers, content god or content cuck. I mean, from a content perspective, I think Piers is good content. I think they've obviously like honed in on a good formula for their shows. I mean, from like a health of the country and media perspective, I would say obviously it's incredibly damaging. It feels, maybe there are other shows that I'm missing, but it feels like he's incredibly biased towards one perspective. And when the host is super against you and is like dictating all of the questions and dialogue, it's very, very, very hard to like get in a word edgewise or to like move the conversation in a positive direction. Yeah.
Did response to her.
Sure. You know, funny, I enjoyed your intro there. I guess I did sort of get on the trans thing early.
To be honest, your philosophical takes on the background process of human behavior is your best content, I guess. But then like sometimes people will listen to me. I just don't like, because I'll like that whole thing that I just went through about like, oh, like people just want to have their own things reinforced and blah, blah, like every single person in the world will listen to what I just said and be like, wow, that guy's super right. And then think that they're the ones in the nuanced like political view section. So it's like, I don't know. All right.
It just wasn't about my genitals. Look, Piers, you're absolutely right. What Donald Trump represents, and then I will address the Ana situation, but what Donald Trump represents right now is something that is well beyond conservative versus liberal or left versus right or anything else. It's a restoration of the American dream. It is a wide tent party that has now brought in classical liberals, not only like myself, but Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who will be in the administration itself, or someone like...
Just to be clear, like when you talk about like classical liberalism, I think that you're generally talking about things like you're generally talking about, I feel like classical liberalism is almost like your kind of like Bill of Rights plus capitalism. Like you're talking about like freedom of the press, freedom, like right to organize something, freedom, religion, like capitalistic environments where you have like, I guess like broadly speaking, when you say classical liberalism, I wonder if they even mention populism in here. I don't like these political labels that are too like nebulous to like pin down. Like if you would ask Dave Rubin, what is a classical liberal? I wonder what he would say, because Donald Trump is like very squarely and clearly a populist. But I don't even know if people know when they say that. I don't know. This is why I don't like political labels. I think I said this years ago. But it feels weird to be like whatever classical liberal is, I think that would stand in staunch opposition to isolationism and protectionism as like economic policy. Like I think that would be pretty, I think those things would be contrary no matter how you define classical liberal, but I don't even know what he means. It's just like, this is like a phrase that he likes and he just says it. He's emoting.
Of the American dream. It is a wide tent party that has now brought in classical liberals, not only like myself, but Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who will be in the administration itself, or someone like Elon Musk, who was basically a default lefty his entire life. And it has brought them in...
Like Elon Musk was a default lefty his entire life. Like, what does that even mean? Like if I were to break down, like, what did he just say here? Like, what, like classical liberals, like, Tulsi, did you say classical liberals like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK? Is that
of the American dream? It is a wide tent party that has now brought in classical liberals, not only like myself, but Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who will...
Like, what is the political alignment between the three of those people? Like, what is he saying anything at all?
Be in the administration itself, or someone like Elon Musk, who was basically a default lefty his entire life. And it has brought them in conversation and in government and in culture with Republicans who tend to be more for the old institutions and more for, let's say, pro-capitalism, things of that nature. This has created a pro-America movement that I think almost everyone in America can get on board. Now, as it pertains to Ana, yes, I was part of the Young Turks network about a decade ago. We were very, very good friends. She was invited to my wedding. We hung out all the time. I did see her on your show about 2 weeks ago.
Well, for those who didn't, let me stop you there, because for those who didn't,
Sure.
I want to play two clips. One, this is for those who may be coming cold to this. One is a sort of mashup of some of the things she said about you before. Then I'm going to play a clip of what she said on...
Yeah, I feel like when people like Dave Rubin say lefty, or they used to be strong Democrats, or they used to be liberal, it feels like what people mean is that like they didn't hate gay people 10 years ago, and that's it. And as long as that was, it was like, as long as you had that, then you were like a hardcore Democrat, a hardcore lefty, a hardcore, like, it's like, that's it? Is that, I don't know. One might say that Bill Maher, for example, is a classical liberal rather than a classical, or is a classic liberal rather than a classical liberal. Oh, I don't even know what the distinction there would be, unless by classic liberal, you just mean like an old school Democrat. Bill Maher actually is one of the few guys. Actually, Bill Maher and Sam Harris are two guys that stand pretty independent politically, I think. I respect both of them for that. I think I disagree with Bill Maher on quite a few things, but how can we be sure we're on the right side? How can half the country believe in such unhinged shit? I'm starting to doubt myself, LOL. Well, I mean, the first question you would ask is like, well, is the other side presenting like legitimate arguments? It seems like the obvious answer is no, because when you do any research whatsoever on any of the talking points, they fall apart immediately. Then the second question is, well, can anybody challenge that? That seems like the answer is obviously no. All of these people are very conflict averse and will not have any of their beliefs challenged. So the third question to go deeper would be, do you have some kind of epistemic flaw? Like, is there a way that you research or arrive at truthful statements that is like somehow fundamentally flawed? The other side probably hasn't even asked this question before. I don't think the answer there is yes. Nobody's able to provide a counterexample. So yeah, I don't know.
This show 2 weeks ago. So let's watch the two things.
He was lazy when he worked here. He's lazy now with his ridiculous show where he proves time and time again that he doesn't know anything. He has no political identity. He is not an honest actor. He is not an intellectual. He is a fraud. But if you are someone who considers yourself libertarian, consider the fact that Dave Rubin is a public figure who represents you, and he doesn't actually genuinely believe in your ideology. And he's going around the country embarrassing you.
You need to at least know your shit and know how to back up your argument. Even if it's like a BS argument, you need to have an argument. Yeah. And he doesn't even he doesn't even do the legwork to be a grifter, right?
Look.
Watching you helped me realize a lot of my opinions weren't fully based in fact. Lay DOD audit. It's helped to watch you, and I'm more confident in looking up info before jumping to conclusions. Well, that's good, I guess, yeah.
Look, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong about Dave Rubin, but I just felt that he, first of all, after he left TYT, he did lie about us, and that bothered me because we were still friends, and I didn't understand what was going on. He did leave on good terms, so it was weird. And, you know, he kept saying that he was this classical liberal.
Like, now this isn't fair to Anna because I'm literally just going by clips that Piers has, but like, so is that the reason why you trashed Dave Rubin, is because he was mean to you, or like, what? Is that really it?
We're still friends, and I didn't understand what was going on. He did leave on good terms, so it was weird. And, you know, he kept saying that he was this classical liberal, but had trouble defining what that meant and had trouble reinforcing or at least backing up some of the claims that he was making about, you know, his newfound identity.
Why is Rubin getting so much attention recently? I thought he felt like it got hard and no one behind the scenes could stand him. I haven't heard about the behind the scenes thing. He has fallen off pretty hard. I don't know if he's getting so much attention or if he's just been on a few peer shows. Hold on, let's speed through this real quick. I'm curious. This was 7 years ago. Why I'm still a liberal. How many times is he going to use the word freedom? 7 years ago, what was happening? We were in 2016. 7 years ago, why I'm still a liberal. I believe in freedom. I just think that the left doesn't stand for freedom anymore. The right stands for freedom. That's my guess for what the whole video will be about.
For the last show of 2016, let's unpack the two words that everything circled back to for me this past year: classical liberalism. We've had many conversations on the Rubin Report focusing on classical liberalism and how this political philosophy is different than both progressivism and libertarianism for subtle but important reasons. For those of you who are a little late to the party, classical liberalism can be defined as a political ideology that values the freedom of individuals, including the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and markets, as well as limited government. It developed in 18th century Europe and drew on the economic writings of Adam Smith and the growing notion of social progress. So as you can see, freedom is right at the top of the pyramid of importance to a classical liberal. You have freedom to practice any religion you want or none at all. Freedom of the press to hold the government accountable, freedom of assembly to protest those in power, and freedom for the markets to move the economy. All of these are vital in the eyes of a classical liberal. These ideas are rooted in the liberty of the individual and a limited government. Of course, when you say things like liberty and individual and limited government, these words are usually thought of as libertarian or conservative ideas. This is why some of my critics say I'm actually a right-winger. I'm not bothered by this charge because it doesn't even make sense if you understand the original meaning of liberalism as I just laid out. When people say to me, you're not a liberal, what they're really trying to say is you're not a progressive. I'll get to more on that in just a second.
Like this like fighting over like what the words mean. Like, yeah, we use liberal for Democrat and we use conservative for Republican here. Those are just like, it's just like common parlance. It doesn't, like, why are we trying to say that people are trying to attack? Like, that's why I hate the political label shit. I think like around this time period when I got into politics, I think I was like very much against political labels. I think the thing I used to say, and it's kind of true, that basically as soon as you give a political label, you have to spend like 2 minutes saying all the things that you're not once you've given that political label. Like, oh, well, I'm a progressive, but I don't believe like in the crazy trans stuff, or I don't believe in this, whatever. Like, oh, I'm a conservative, but I don't necessarily support Trump, and I'm not necessarily in favor of this, or blah, blah, blah. Like, it just feels like, what the fuck is the point of these?
A true liberal is for gay marriage because they believe a gay person should have the same rights as a straight person. A true liberal is pro-choice because they believe it is the right of the woman to do with her body as she sees fit. A true liberal is for legalization of marijuana because you should be allowed to smoke whatever you want in your own home. A lot of this sounds like libertarianism, which I know is scary for a lot of card-carrying liberals to hear, but this is exactly where we can start building bridges to a new political center. So what then is the difference between a classical liberal and a libertarian? And how is a classical liberal not on the right? There's a couple things at play here. First off, there's the dirty little truth that classical liberalism is technically more a part of the American right because of the importance it puts on individual freedom. I know a lot of liberals don't want to hear that or believe that they could be part of the right, and I also know that the left-right paradigm is rapidly crumbling as the two-party system is becoming more archaic. The reason liberalism became so identified with the left is because of social liberalism, which took over in the mid-19th century. For a while, this brand of liberalism worked and helped tremendously, causing huge social change like equality for black people and for women. At some point, though, social liberalism changed from judging people on the content of their character, as Martin Luther King Jr. professed, to instead judging people on immutable characteristics like skin color or sexuality. This was the shift that liberalism made to progressivism, which places the group over the individual, and ultimately, in my opinion, isn't very progressive or liberal at all. By judging people as groups instead of as individuals, the minorities within a minority will always be thrown under the bus. This is where the social justice ideology came from, a liberalism which was rooted in the amorphous term social instead of the clearly defined word liberty. That's why being liberal these days, in the classical sense, has very little to do with being on the left.
Is there something wrong with this lighting here? It's just very even and very dead. There's no contrast or shadow
anymore. Silencing dissent, deplatforming speakers, hurling unfair charges of racism and bigotry aren't liberal ideas at all, although sadly they've become part and parcel of today's left. As I often say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I have no doubt that most progressives believe they are correct in their thinking. So it's our job as liberals to show them where they've gone awry. Then and only then can true liberalism be part of the left again. As I mentioned before, I love the convergence.
Do you agree with everything he's saying? What's even wrong? He's not saying anything. He's not even wrong. He's not saying anything. It's just like quabbling over what the political labels mean, or everything is just a waste of time.
Classical liberal and libertarian ideas because it shows that two different ideologies can come to the same conclusions if they're based in individualism and liberty. So if you're a liberal who's for gay marriage because you want gay people to be treated under the law, that's just as good as a libertarian who wants the government out of your personal life altogether. There's many other places where you can apply this line of thinking, which begs the question,
that's not even true, but
what's the difference actually between a classical liberal and a libertarian? I've discussed this with a few guests in my partnership with Learn Liberty and would recommend that you check out my interviews with Steve Davies of the London School of Economics and Randy Barnett from Georgetown University for more on that. Long story short, classical liberals do see some valid role for government to the ends that it enhances human freedom. Libertarians, for as much as you can define them, are a bit harder to pin down on this notion. Speaking of Learn Liberty, we're continuing our partnership with them this week, and joining me is author of 17 books, economist and former professor of English, history, economics, and communications at the University of Illinois at Chicago, Deirdre McCloskey. Deirdre also happens to be transgender, transitioning to female over 20 years ago. We'll talk about her journey both personally and professionally, and how individualism, liberty, and freedom are the keys to a prosperous economy and a rewarding life. As we look towards 2017, let's refocus on freedom, liberty, and the rights of the individual. The voices trying to tear us apart have made it very clear that they're only going to get louder and angrier. Russia and fake news are not the problem. We are. Only when we look in the mirror and are willing to challenge ourselves to be more tolerant of other opinions.
No, guys, whatever.
So, Dave, there we have it in all its inglorious fashion. All the digs she had at you, then what she said on mine, which she herself, of course, was pivoting. What's your response?
Well, first off, I should note you don't have 10 years of videos of me saying anything about her, because we did leave on good terms. As a matter of fact, when I told her I was leaving, we went to Cenk on Melrose. I took her out for sangria, and she cried that because I was leaving, and I was bringing my producer with me. But putting that aside for a moment, if I can't explain any of my ideas, well, somehow this became a New York Times bestseller where I lay out all my classically liberal beliefs, and I've discussed them with you many times, and I believe in laissez-faire.
Don't they have like 20 different categories of New York Times bestsellers? I feel like if you can sell like 100 books, I wonder if I could have a New York Times bestseller. It just feels really easy to, like...
Economics, and I believe in individual rights and all that. But what I would say, I think she's a little...
Oh, no. Am I making this up? Or did we read part of this book a long time ago and he like fucks up, like he's trying to explain philosophy and he fucks up like the difference between like validity and soundness or something. Did we do this? Am I, like, it was just like some stupid part of the, am I making, does anybody remember this? Where am I? Old fans.
A little confused and perhaps was lied to.
Oh, no, that might have been Molyneux's book. Never mind. Okay, just kidding.
About by her employers, about some of my behaviors or something like that. But I love the idea of anyone going through their own political evolution. You know, one of the things is that people go through it often in varying speeds. So I always say some people swallow the red pill and some people snort it, right? Some people just wake up overnight and they fully see it. I think one of the things that you have to do when you wake up is realize that many people have gone through this before you and that you might have wronged some people on the way there. So I was very glad to hear her say that she might have been wrong about Dave Rubin. Look, all it takes, honestly, like I know you know this, Piers, you've been in this game longer than me. You don't get any apologies in this business, and I don't like making things really about myself in that sense. But genuinely, if there was a mea culpa there or just a simple apology, maybe I didn't see things right about you, Dave, or whatever, I would gladly welcome anyone. And I don't mean to make this about her. If you're waking up to the ideas of liberty and limited government, especially post-COVID and seeing what this ridiculous Democratic Party has become, and you want to agree to disagree and dive into the ideas and have that battle, I will do that with absolutely anybody. So look, an apology probably, I would say, would be warranted, but I don't sit there and wait for it. And I think there are much bigger forces at play here than just the interpersonal battle of two people.
Out of interest, I mean, if I could make it happen, would you debate her?
Yes.
Uncensored?
100. I said that on my show after we played that clip. If she, I'd be happy to do it with her live, just the two of us in studio. If you want to be the host or moderator, I'll do it under any condition, because again, I think there's something, I think it now represents something that could be unbelievably good for America.
Yeah.
Like she would, of course he would love to debate her, because they wouldn't have an actual debate. It would just be a giant circle jerk. Like when, oh my God, what was this disgusting fucking conversation? It was, with Glenn Beck. This was insane. This was just an unbelievable conversation. Oh my God.
Progressives who have called everybody racists and bigots and impugned motives. I mean, people just watched that compilation right there. Always going after people in the worst nature. If you've now woke up, and from what I understand, I've seen some of her tweets, she's now being attacked the same way she attacked me. So I would say, much like Bruce Willis said in Die Hard, welcome to the party, pal. But we can be on the same side, even if we still have political disagreements. Okay, we don't agree on the marginal tax rate or the immigration rates or something like that. If you love America, if you think this place is fundamentally good, if we still have a country that will offer more opportunity for any other place and you want to be part of that, yes, whatever the circumstances are or the moderator is or isn't, I'd be happy to do it. But if it's you,
why would Anna be doing these things? Is it a different tactic, or is she just mind broke? I don't know. I think I've kind of abandoned the mental models that I have for people that work in this space, or they're very much like in flux right now. I'm not actually sure. I don't know how much she actually believes versus how much is like a grift versus how much is like she got bullied, so now she's changed, versus how much is like she just wants to make money off of the current environment. I truly don't understand now. I don't know. I'm not sure if any of these people are genuine at all. It's hard to say.
That would be great.
You know, what's really interesting about what you just said, I totally agree with you, by the way, but if you look at Trump's picks for his cabinet, for example, they are so diverse in terms of their views, right across the board. I mean, if they all got together, they'd be arguing about all sorts of stuff, which I'm all in favor of. This kind of, rigid ideology where you have to all sign up to one.
Do you believe that the truth will ultimately prevail, or is it over? I mean, the truth will always ultimately prevail, but that's not always like a good thing, or that doesn't mean that the outcome is like the best thing. Like, for instance, let's say that we decide that we can build a platform over the ocean, and that platform can only hold 1 million people, and then we ship 10 million people to live on the platform. Like, eventually the truth will prevail, but I mean, the truth is going to be all 10 million people drowning, right? So I mean, like, this
one viewpoint about everything. There'll be people in there that completely disagree with RFK, for example, about some of his views. Good. Have that debate.
Course.
Have that debate. This is what democracy is supposed to be built on.
Of course, this is the beauty of what Trump is doing right now. And really, you can connect that so deeply. I mean, I would recommend anyone go back on YouTube. You can find Donald Trump on Phil Donahue or Oprah or a whole bunch of these shows back in the 80s, and he sounds like a Democrat. Yeah. So Donald Trump is not a traditional conservative. I would actually argue that Donald Trump's own political evolution...
I'm like this, like, these guys are having a political conversation that's like 8 years out of date. Like these guys are acting like they're talking in 2014 on the end of like Obama's administration. Like, okay, like Democrats and Republicans. Like, no, these political lines don't even exist like this anymore.
Probably, Piers, is much more in line with guys like you and me than say George Bush or Dick Cheney or someone that might, you think of as a sort of standard bearer for republicanism. So the fact that he is now going to bring in people who quite literally were running against him for president only 6 months ago, RFK Jr., and someone who ran against him for president on the other side, Tulsi, only 4 years ago, that shows you what's bringing them together. What's bringing them together is a love for America, a realization that we have been on the precipice of giving away the most precious, beautiful experiment in human history on how to free people ever. And I think Donald Trump actually now sees that. I also think that post-assassination attempt, I think he has a renewed fervor fervor and sort of realization.
No
of what his
question.
Do you think that they're having that out-of-date conversation on purpose, or they believe it? I just don't think Rubin is. I don't know who would even. I don't know why anybody would watch Dave Rubin. I don't know what the appeal is at all.
role in life is. And that's the opportunity that, again, not to make this about Ana specifically, but anyone that's going through a wake up. We know so many people have woken up. I mean, look, for me, I think it was 2016. I did that Why I Left the Left video for PragerU. You want everyone to get there the day you do, but you have to be gracious when people come around one way or another.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in my other panel members, because some of them are definitely going on a very interesting journey, including new MAGA enthusiast Cenk Uygur. I said that deliberately to wind him up. The host and founder of the Young Turks. Libertarian Dave Smith, host of Part of the Problem. Lindy Li, the DNC Finance Committee member and advisor, and former woke activist turned YouTuber Amala Ekpunobi. Well, welcome to all of you. So, Cenk, I mean, many people saying if you carry on down the road you're going in the last few weeks, you will be a fully fledged member of MAGA before we know it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance of that. I'm not like Dave Rubin, a giant sellout fraud who changed all of his positions and is totally useless.
So, like, I want to say based Cenk, but I don't even know if this is like Cenk fighting Rubin politically, or if he just like personally hates him because of like the history at the Young Turks and everything, you know?
So absolutely no chance of that. I'm not like Dave Rubin, a giant sellout fraud who changed all of his positions and is totally useless, and it shouldn't even be on here. He's just a waste of space.
Wow. Really? After what all Dave said about coming together?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've got no interest in coming together with utter frauds like Dave Rubin. So, brother, you telling me...
So, like, how do you square this away with all of Cenk's rhetoric recently about, like, oh, the MAGA people, we can align on things? Like, is this just, like, a personal beef, or... I don't know, let's...
Yeah, no, I've got no interest in coming together with utter frauds like Dave Rubin. So, brother, you telling me that when you were on the Young Turks, you were Mr. Progressive and you agreed with us 100%. Now, all of a sudden, you agree with Trump 100%? You're not saying something nuanced like we are. Hey, you know, when the guy gets shot at and he puts his fist up, that's courageous. When he does the McDonald's photo op, it works fine, no problem, right? If he wants to cut the Pentagon, great. Those are progressive positions. Anti-corruption, progressive position. Anti-war, progressive position. But you change all of your ideology overnight and you expect us to believe that that's real? I don't think it's real at all. And I want an apology from you for all the crazy, outrageous lies that you told about the Young Turks. When is that going to happen, huh? When are you going to admit that you changed all your positions for money? Okay. Well, what position do you still have that's in any way a so-called classic liberal? You fraud,
Dave.
Piers, it's barely worth responding to this ridiculous buffoon who's the joke of the industry. But yeah. I will say this, Cenk, I haven't spoken to you in 10 years. I haven't spoken to you in 10 years.
Fraud.
I don't think he's a fraud or a joke. I think Dave Rubin is, for what it's worth, I think Dave Rubin is one of the most influential and significant voices out there right now. And I admire his honesty about the journey he's been on, Cenk.
Piers, I appreciate that. But, you know, the thing is, what Cenk just proved is exactly what everyone in America, and I would say all over the world, is getting over. Nobody wants what he just offered up there. Not only does no one believe it, and he had it prepackaged and ready to go, and it's complete drivel. Yes, I sold out. It's just it's so nonsensical. Again, Cenk, I'll gladly send you a signed copy of the book, and you can read all of my thoughts. And if you're anti-corruption and you're anti-war, you should be on the Trump train. But your endless hatred, the division that you so...
Like, this is like all a performance, right? Like, is he going to respond to a single thing that Cenk said? Not only is he not going to respond to anything Cenk said, Cenk's not going to probably follow up on it. He'll do a different attack, which I don't blame. That's not Cenk's fault. That's how debates work, or your mind, like, you're going for it. But Piers isn't going to force him to answer. He's not going to answer, and then it's just like, you're just like screaming at each other.
Calling everyone racist and white supremacist, all of that stuff, it's why you're not respected. But I don't mean to get into the personal side of that. I'm talking about now.
Like, who did Cenk even call him racist or white supremacist? Did I miss that?
Everyone racist and white supremacist, all of that stuff, it's why you're not respected. But I don't mean to get into the personal side of that. I'm talking about now something that culturally has shifted, and everyone can see the grift that you're up to, trying to sort of dance with the thing, but it's just not necessary, and I don't think that many people will buy it.
Well, Cenk, let me put to you, Cenk.
Okay,
hang on, Cenk. Hang on. I'm going to read you something just to see your reaction. But Laura Loomer called you out on X, as you know, and she said this: you are the radical left, Cenk Uygur. You're a con artist and an opportunistic grifter who's gotten rich off demonizing President Trump, calling...
Like, we're citing... I'm sorry, political analysis expert Laura Loomer? Really?
Supporters, fascists and Nazis, promoting open borders, glorifying Hamas, and pushing conspiracy theories about Trump for 9 years. If you want forgiveness, get on your filthy knees and pray to Allah, because you aren't welcome on the right, and you aren't ever going to find redemption, no matter how hard you pander. And she goes on and on. Because you aren't welcome on the right, and you aren't ever going to find a redemption arc, no matter how hard you pander. And she goes on and on. I'm going to keep calling you out every time you try to move an inch closer to many on the right, because you're too dense and too dumb, because they're too dense and too dumb to decode your subversion, but I'm not. So, look, there are lots of people on the right who think that you're on some great...
Are we just going to, like, kind of move past the... Okay, Jesus.
Move here to, as she puts it, wiggle your way into the middle and over to the right, so you can then poison MAGA with your, as she puts it, subhuman political takes. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay, so look.
Notice how Rubin said, I'm not even going to waste my time responding to what Cenk just said, because nobody wants that. America rejected that kind of rhetoric. And now he just read Laura Loomer talking about how Cenk needs to get on his knees and pray to Allah. What the f***? Okay.
This is people like Laura Loomer and Dave Rubin are the exact problem. And I think actually somebody else on this panel knows part of the solution. That's Dave Smith. And I want to come back to that in a second. So when you have people like Dave Rubin switch all of their positions, what happens is when you go to do nuance and you say, hey guys, hold on, let me explain. Hold on. Yeah. Hey, go pleasure Trump again.
Ooh, they're giving him the destiny treatment. Rubin's mic is getting cocked.
Again, go pleasure Trump again.
Do you know that
he goes from Bernie to Trump and pretends. Come on, brother. Come on, brother.
I tell people what I believe
what do you believe? You believe in something yesterday, you don't believe in anything today.
Yeah, what position? What position do you think I hold that I don't honestly believe?
Can I answer
Name
the
one.
question?
Yeah.
Can I answer the question? Can I answer Trump?
Yeah, what position do I?
Okay, we have a particular question. That's good. A pointed question. Okay, Cenk needs to provide one position that he feels like Dave Rubin has switched on. One position.
Say that I believe that I don't really believe. Go ahead.
Brother, you went on Fox News with Tucker Carlson. You went on Tucker Carlson on Fox News and said gay people, that the fact that the fire department was recruiting gay people was why there was forest fires. You're a national embarrassment, okay?
Wait, let him answer that. Was that true? Did you say that? Is that an acceptable position? What did he say? Let's find out if Cenk is summarizing that correctly. Dave Rubin, fire department, Tucker Carlson, gay people. Oh, they covered it.
So that's a great point, Anna. I just last night.
As wildfires rage in the state of California, Dave Rubin has decided that as a person currently residing in the state, he is going to go on Tucker Carlson's Fox show and show everyone that he can make anything about identity politics.
PG&E strikes me as almost a metaphor for the destruction of the state. So here's the utility.
This guy was going on Tucker Carlson 5 years ago? Jesus, okay.
Which doesn't really...
Go back and one video down was the original clip. Oh, this?
And he joins us tonight. So, Dave, thanks so much for coming on. You moved to California because it's a beautiful place, and I agree with that. You've seen it really degrade in the time that you've been there, but PG&E strikes me as almost a metaphor for the...
Just as a quick thing, I don't know if this is going to be a hot take for Californians. If you move to California and you go to live in, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but if you're going to live in San Francisco or LA, you're not moving to California because it's a beautiful place. You're moving there for work. There are a lot of beautiful places in California. The massively huge cities are not those places, okay? So if you go to LA or you go to San Francisco, you're going there because you're going for work and because of the opportunities to connect with people in a network. You're not going because it's a beautiful place to live, because if you were, you would not be living in these two places, all right?
Destruction of the state. So here's the utility, which doesn't really know anything about its own infrastructure, but knows everything about the race of its employees. How did we get there?
It's just unbelievable. Look, I've been in LA. I'm in LA right now. I live about a minute away from one of the big fires that's still going. I have friends that are evacuated. Los Angeles, putting politics aside, in Southern California, might be the most beautiful part of the United States. Yes. The problem right now is that everything from academia to public utilities to politics, everything that goes woke, that buys into this ridiculous progressive ideology, that cares about what contractors are LGBT or how many black firemen we have or white this or Asian that, everything that goes that road eventually breaks down. It is not how freedom is supposed to operate. What is supposed to...
I think one of the big issues that I have with media too, and I've like changed my framing on this, is like everything that's presented as like basically like a political law is actually just like the most baseline hypothesis ever. Like, oh, okay, so you think wokeness ruined fire departments because of affirmative action? Okay, fine. That can be a hypothesis. Okay, sure. Like, give me something. Go do some research on that. Is there evidence of people being hired who were not qualified? Are they lowering the standards for women and now there's like a fire truck that up that couldn't like, I don't know, spray the hose right? Like, give me, like, you have to do something with that. You can't just give me well, you can because it's media and there's no standards, but like, you can't just like give a hypothesis like that. Like, oh, it's the wokeification of everything. Okay, but is it actually? Like,
that everything that goes that road eventually breaks down. It is not how freedom is supposed to operate. What is supposed to happen, Tucker, imagine if your house was on fire. Would you care what the public utility or what the fire company, what contractor they brought in, what gender or sexuality or any of those things he or she was? I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Who would care?
And right now we've got a situation.
Are there like qualified firefighters that are getting turned down for the job because they're white? Is this happening? Was this happening? There's like all these unemployed firefighters who are like, we want to fight fires. And I'm like, sorry, no, sir, no Nazis today.
Of course you wouldn't care. And we've got a situation right now where we're doing preemptive blackouts in this state, which I think is the 11th largest economy in the entire world. We do preemptive blackouts because they don't want to put too much pressure on the grid. I mean, try to imagine the absurdity of what's going on here. And I hate to tell you, but we just don't have enough clear thinking, say more libertarian or conservative minded people in California to fight what the progressives are doing to the state.
But if you can't keep the lights on, and you can't keep the place from burning down. You've reached the point where there's no kind of lying about it anymore. Like, it's fallen apart. It's a disaster. It's not civilized anymore.
You know what, if I've learned...
Like, it's not North Carolina's fault, it's not Georgia's fault, and it's not Florida's fault for preparedness for hurricanes. But it is California's fault for having wildfires. Like, I mean, like, natural disasters happen. Like, they suck, and you have to be prepared for them. And like, there's, you know, I'm curious, what did these guys all say about Texas's power grid failure, which was something that was more controllable, but from what I remember, due to the way they divvy up and sell power in that state, which is, I think, unique from every other state in the union, that has to do with like basically free market energy selling, basically like Texas when there was like 2 days where the temperature was below 40 degrees.
Learned anything by living in California and Los Angeles specifically, it's that no matter what happens, ideology seems to trump rationality.
Yes,
so in the 6 years that I've been here, the amount of homeless encampments have...
What am I doing? Like, what is he saying? Ideology trumps rationality. Fires are spreading in California because of too much wokeness. Like, what, are the fires homophobic? Are they trying to kill all the gay people? Like, what do we even... From what I understand, departments are looking for more firefighters. I feel like I have heard the severely understaffed. From my understanding, I'm speaking a bit colloquially here, I think basically everybody in the US except for like tech is desperately looking for, or not colloquially, but anecdotally, I guess. I'm pretty sure every industry in the US is like desperately looking for workers. We have like a starving economy for workers where we are desperately looking for people to fill positions. Thank God we're about to deport 20 million of them.
Ideology seems to trump rationality.
Yes,
so in the 6 years that I've been here, the amount of homeless encampments have expanded. Virtually every exit you get off the 405 or the 101, there are now homeless people sitting right there, or actually that have basically built structures at the exits. Now it's like if raising taxes on everybody... and
nobody in California gives a fuck about wildfires. There will always be more. Shit grows in the spring, dies in the summer, and burns in the fall every year no matter what. I'm pretty sure around here... I'm trying to think. I don't think there were any bad ones when I lived there. But my understanding is the fire shit in California gets really annoying when you have to start doing your rolling brownouts, I think, in order to maintain your power grid because of like wildfires and shit, which seemed kind of annoying. I do think there were a lot of Californians that were complaining about that a few years ago.
People sitting right there, or actually that have basically built structures at the exits. Now it's like if raising taxes on everybody and supposedly the progressive policies that care about poor people, if these things worked, wouldn't the places that progressive policies were enacted, wouldn't there be less homeless? Wouldn't there be less gun violence? All the things that they talk about. But no, there's always more. This is not a coincidence. These policies don't work, but if you just don't really think about them, if you think, oh, we just have to throw money at things, and...
Why do you never have an example? Okay, well, what do the Republicans have? What is your positive example? Like, what are the Republican or conservative cities that we should all be modeling ourselves after?
And they magically get better while you do whatever you want to do in your life and don't want to really think about the issues, then it all works. And that's what we all have to fight. I mean, everyone across the country, because, I travel the country often and people will say to me,
I don't want to think about the issues, so we're going to blame wildfires on gay people?
Dave, you got to stop the people from California moving here to Utah or moving here to Denver or moving here to Texas, because then they bring the bad policies of California elsewhere.
Build a wall. Walls are not just for our exterior borders, but that's just something to think about. Dave,
great. Well, can I at least get on your side of the Denver or moving here to Texas? Will say to me, Dave, the issues, then it all works. And that's what we all have to fight. I mean, everyone across the country, because I travel the country often, and people will say to me, Dave, you got to stop the people from California moving here to Utah or moving here to Denver or moving here.
From Utah to what? And people in Denver, Colorado are saying we don't want more people moving here. Maybe Denver does feel that way. I don't know. My experience with Midwestern cities is they're usually really hungry for people to move to them or stay there and not move out. But I don't know.
Here to Texas, because then they bring the bad policies of California elsewhere.
Build a wall. Walls are not just for our exterior borders, but that's just something to think about. Dave,
great. Well, can I at least get on your side of the wall?
Yeah, join us here anytime in this one. Good to see you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
Well, some candidates running for president right now, the Democrats.
Okay. Jesus.
If anyone honestly
those guys
believes
for a
that,
living.
you can pull up the clip tomorrow if you want.
Okay.
I was talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you shouldn't hire people based on their genitals or their sexual orientation. And we now all know that. You have been one of the prime pushers of all of this neo-racism. I believe in meritocracy, that whether you're going to be a doctor or a firefighter or a basketball player.
Neo-racism. Jesus Christ. What's the difference between neo-racism and racism?
Or anything else, you should be hired on your qualifications, not your genitals or sexual orientation or skin color. That's actually America. So you can keep trying here.
Cenk, finish your point. I'm going to go to Dave Smith.
Listen, yes. when this country desperately needs to unite against the establishment on things we all agree on. So things like all the populists hate corruption. All the populists hate war. By the way, Dave doesn't. Dave will demand that we start every war for Israel and pay for all of Israel's war. So he's been establishment on that all along. So, but when you go to say, hey, can we get an agreement on things that we agree on? The left pushes back because they're so afraid. They got traumatized by the Dave Rubins of the world. They're like, oh, if you take one step, not even in their direction, if you allow
If you polled the left right now, what percentage of the left do you think would say a female firefighter can do anything a male firefighter can do? If you polled the left, like all the Democrats in the US, my guess is maybe like 10%, maybe? Like, do you think the average Democrat is a guy who's like, men and women are completely the same? I don't know. Is there a poll for that? Also, keep in mind, men and women don't have to do the exact same thing. You can have a variety of people that work. You'd rather have a weaker firefighter than no firefighter. I mean, like, what do you mean? Like,
the right wing they got traumatized by the Dave Rubins of the world. They're like, oh, if you take one step, not even.
Oh my God, bro. Is this what it's like when I go on these shows? Oh my God. They're giving this dude the super Mike fuck treatment.
Dave doesn't. Dave will demand that we start every war for Israel and pay for all of Israel's war. So he's been establishment on that all along. So, but when you go to say, hey, can we get an agreement on things that we agree on? The left pushes back because they're so afraid. They got traumatized by the Dave Rubins of the world. They're like, oh, if you take one step, not even in their direction, if you allow the right wing to take a step in our direction, they're worried that you're going to be a fraud like Dave Rubin and change all of your positions overnight. So my friends on the left, do not get scarred by this fraud of a man. There are other people like Dave Smith, who
let me bring in Dave
is a libertarian.
Smith.
We disagree on other issues.
Let me bring in
but
Dave
we
Smith.
can actually unite on the things that we care about.
Right. Let me bring in
Yes, like Israel and how evil it is, and foreign policy, and we need to have no wars ever, and protectionism, because that's the best thing ever. Anti-establishment, 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 which is where all five of these people are aligned, which is the true political division of the U.S. right now. It's the establishment versus the anti. It's been that way for years, and all five are on the exact same side here.
In order to unite, you got to get past the frauds like Dave Rubin.
All right, Dave Smith, welcome back to Uncensored. Obviously, things have kicked off. I actually thought there might have been a coming together moment, and not the way it went, but it's gone the opposite way. Let's just take what Dave Rubin was saying and then how Cenk responded. But it seems to me that this Big Tent thing of Trump, I mean, it's very real. His popularity in America has never been higher than it is today. He's got an incredible mandate. The Republicans basically now are in charge of absolutely in America. Rubin was saying and then how Cenk responded. But it seems to me that this Big Tent thing of Trump, I mean, it's very real. His popularity in America has never been higher than it is today.
Approval ratings, Gallup usually does this. Would they do it while he's not in office? It must only be like, there's got to be like favorability ratings or something, right? Gallup, Trump, favorability ratings. Never broke, did he ever break 50%? He didn't. This is who people say is like such an amazingly high approval president. It's so cringe if people say this. But Republicans like sycophantically were obsessed. Oh my God, it was insane. The lowest in this was 87% through all of 2020. What about when COVID hit? 87% is the lowest here. Oh no, wait, this was COVID. I'm sorry, 2020. Oh, Jesus, yeah. Oh, we got an 86 here in 2018. Ooh, 81 in 2018. Ooh, oh, because Republicans probably weren't fully on board with him yet, because there were still Republicans who were like, wait a second, don't we have like morals and principles and shit? But by 2018, they were all on board the Trump train. I wonder what Obama's. Yeah, Obama got hit from both parties. Wait. I think. Republicans versus Independents versus Democrats. Okay. In 2017, his approval was very high by Democrats. 84 was the lowest here in his last full year by Democrats. Still pretty high. 2015, his lowest was 80. Did we get to 70? 79 up there. 2014, got a lot of 70s. Damn, Republicans, single digit? What was Obama doing in 2014? They had a 6% approval rating. What the f***? Was he genociding the civilian population? Holy shit. In 2014, this is after we bounced back from the worldwide, the Great Recession. Have you gone over the Trump press conference yet? I haven't. I can after this. Jesus. Republican approval ratings were higher in 2009. Favorability, people in the news. October 22nd. Presidential nominee favorability ratings on a 10-point favorability scale. Total favorable. Is this between, is this like favorable between people that support them or all of America? No, it must be people, it must be all of America, right? Because Trump is higher than 50 in the Republican Party. I'm just curious if there's like some huge shift. Technically, if his favorability was 50%, that would be the highest it's ever been. But Jesus. Huh. Okay. All right. I was just curious for a source on that.
He's got an incredible mandate. The Republicans basically now are in charge of absolutely everything. You've got everyone who formally distanced themselves in 2016 racing down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring and so on. I mean, it's a real opportunity, but it's undeniably an extraordinary coming together of people from all types of political views and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say, for the record, that I like both Dave and Cenk.
So do I. I agree.
Cenk did work in a compliment toward me, and Dave, you weren't able to do that. So I'm going to be on Cenk's side on this issue now.
Dave, you and I have some differences. I've never gone after you. I like you, absolutely.
Jesus.
That's true. Listen, I don't look bigger than your guys' like personal beef. I think it's what's going on here is really kind of amazing. Well, okay, but I'm just saying, if you zoom out here, I think since this last election, people are focused on this kind of realignment and the new political dynamics in America. But if you look back 8 years ago in 2016, during this election, in both major political parties, you had essentially civil wars. I mean, Donald Trump came in and took over the Republican Party against the will of the establishment and the donor class. In 2016, the RNC was floating out the idea of changing the rules, as you remember well, Piers, all the way up until the convention. They were floating out the idea of trying to steal this thing from Donald Trump. Of course, that same year, the Bernie Sanders movement had to be flat out cheated by the Democratic establishment. So it's not as if these things haven't been building for quite a long time. I think what happened in this election is that the thing that unified people around Trump was one, like Dave, like you said, me and you disagree on a lot of issues. I think a lot of people who ended up supporting Trump disagree on.
Okay. Anytime somebody says this, we're going to learn what their most important issue is, okay? This is what really caused it. Instead of rallying inflation. But maybe he'll say the economy broadly. We'll see.
A lot of issues. The one thing that united all of us is that we opposed the blatant corruption of the establishment.
That is absolutely not the answer. Or it could be an answer, but that answer is a proxy for something else. You're just not a supporter of Donald Trump if corruption is like a thing that is bothering you. That's impossible. Or unless you don't know anything, I guess. It would just...
And the corporate media apparatus, which is nothing more than the mouthpiece of the regime, constantly in the business of lying to the American people in service of the regime. And
like mouthpiece of the regime was Fox News when they were parroting lies from Trump's campaign to try to get him reelected. But
this is what so this is how you're able to get a liberal like Bobby Kennedy and a liberal like Tulsi Gabbard. And
then we always have these people that there's nothing like, where do we even have, was there a clip of Kamala Harris calling her out a long time ago? Was it in 2019? Damn, Tulsi Gabbard working that YouTube channel.
And today I'm on
1 million subs. Holy f. Are these the same clip that she uploaded twice? Based? Pete called her out in a debate. I thought it was Kamala. Was it somebody else? All right, it's going to be all Tulsi get blazing over here, I guess. Jesus.
I think that it's unfortunate that we have someone on the stage who is attempting to be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States, who during the Obama administration spent 4 years full-time on Fox News criticizing President Obama.
That's
who
ridiculous,
has spent full-time.
That's ridiculous.
Who has spent full-time criticizing people on this stage as affiliated with the Democratic Party when Donald Trump was elected, not even sworn in, buddied up to Steve Bannon to get a meeting with Donald Trump in the Trump Tower, fails to call a war criminal by what he is as a war criminal, and then spends full time during the course of this campaign, again, criticizing the Democratic Party.
2019, Hillary Clinton suggests Russians are grooming Tulsi Gabbard for third-party run. Good one. Thanks, CNN. I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who is currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate, Clinton said, speaking on a podcast with former Obama advisor David Plouffe. She's the favorite of the Russians. Damn. It's just so gross that like Tulsi Gabbard, who's been like this like Democratic Party hater for like a decade, or maybe not a decade, I don't know, when she started her weird fucking pro-Assad, pro-Russia shit, is like, well, look, Tulsi Gabbard likes us, so that means you're wrong. We're a bigger tent. And it's like, okay, dude.
Somebody like J.D. Vance or somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, why they can all come together is that they all oppose the corruption that permeates D.C. that has truly, profoundly degraded this country over the last 25 years. And I think that there's, just with that basic understanding, there's a lot that people, even with very different political views, can agree on.
Yeah. Amala, I want to come to you, but I want to play a clip from Stephen A. Smith. This is where
it's always just like the most like unfalsifiable, like empty, hollow, baseless, like establishment bad, government bad, did bad things. Like, wow.
Calling out people who say he's on the right because he's been criticizing Democrats. Let's take a listen.
No surprises. You're just continuing to piss me off. Why? Because every time I make a comment that's critical of the Democratic Party or the left, I get accused of being a pundit for the right. I voiced my concerns about Joe Biden and his ability to serve as second term as president. Then Biden stepped on the debate stage in late June and revealed what many suspected. He embarrassed himself. The White House and the Democrats eventually switched to Vice President Kamala Harris when he stepped away. I pointed out my concerns with the campaign and the Democratic Party along the way, and many of you wanted to accuse me of being a voice for the right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just find it inexplicable that someone like him, who's so smart, can pass genuinely constructive criticism about why Democrats got it wrong. And immediately he has to be branded a right-wing headbanger, and that's the only reason he's doing this. When in fact, a bit of serious introspection from the Democrats is obviously massively overdue. What do you think of it, Amala?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with your characterization. I think this is a big part of why they lost this past election, and it's this sort of dogmatic.
It's not, but
fervor that they have for everybody to toe every single part of the ideology that they represent. And I had a very similar experience. I used to be an extremely radical leftist. I was working for a left-leaning organization, organizing students to work on all of these different woke campaigns that were circulating at the time. And as soon as I started to question the narrative or question the fabric of the ideology I was pushing, I was immediately, thrust out into the open to sort of explore these ideas and figure out maybe
okay, not to be like an asshole, but I don't think you're allowed to say you left the left or you left some political ideology if you left it when you were like fucking 19. Or maybe I'm wrong, but like, wait, how old is she? Because isn't her thing that like, I used to be a super hardcore Democrat, progressive when I was in college, and then I did a demonstration and people bullied me, and now I'm right. But wasn't this like when she was like 20 years old or something? How old was she? Doesn't anybody know? I can't spell her name because it's an insanely spelled name. Oh, here it is. Jesus. She's 24 years old. Like, when did she leave the left? What the fuck? Like, you're not even old enough to have a real political identity. I don't know, man. Like, I left the left when I was, like, PragerU, she joined when she was 20. Raised in a far-left activist household, Amala Ekpunobi was once a student organizer for the left. After a complete ideological transformation, she joined PragerU at age 20. As a leftist turned free thinker at age 20, Amala's fresh perspective made her a sought-after public speaker and returning guest on Dr. Phil. The Ingram angle on Fox News and more. From 2021 to 2023, Amala was an in-house PragerU personality and hosted our show Unapologetic, where she provided commentary on news, culture, and politics. To be fair, don't you say the same thing about leaving conservatism? Yeah, because I grew up. But I don't say like, actually, there was one thing that happened. But like generally, I'm not like, oh no, like all the conservatives left me behind. And then I became left because I had different life experiences and it changed my perspective on society as I got older. And that's generally why I aligned more with the left than the right. But it's not like I like had a big like, oh, I 180 completely because the Republicans did this. Where it was like, you're like, I'm a kid. Like, what?
I'm on the wrong side here, because immediately, thrust out into the open to sort of explore these ideas and figure out maybe I'm on the wrong side here, because I was with a group of people that were claiming to be tolerant, but as soon as you have an ounce of skepticism, they are ready to push you aside and label you as far right. And I think much to their dismay, what this is going to create is a group of people that feel so isolated that they are willing to indulge in right-leaning ideology, what they would characterize as far right, but at this point it's just, reasonable common sense. And as they are abandoned by their side, they're going to look to others and they're going to be accepted because we are able to explore. We are actually...
What attracts people to the truth if it's uncomfortable? Nothing. That's like a thing you have to get over. It's very, very difficult to accept a truthful thing that is uncomfortable. Most people will spend their entire lives fighting those types of things. So Jazz, conservatives that are okay with trans people. I don't know how many conservatives are okay with trans people, what that even looks like.
Promoting skepticism.
Yeah. Lindy, I want to play a clip. This is Kamala Harris overnight. I don't know why she thought this was a good idea to come back out before Christmas as everyone was licking their wounds and almost like she was in campaign mode again. It's like, please, do not do this. But let's take a listen to what she had to say.
Get some rest over the holidays. Spend time with the people you love. I believe family comes in many forms. There's family by blood and there's family by love. I urge you then, after you have had some rest, in fact, I challenge you to come back ready. Ready to chart our path to the future. Chin up, shoulders back. Forever impatient for change.
I mean, what's wrong? Like, and because he's got the reins on the conversation, no one here is gonna push back, obviously, and you can't even push back because it's his show. What is wrong with this?
I mean, Lindy, no disrespect to her because she's a perfectly nice woman. She would not inspire me to.
Is Cenk even gonna say anything here? Probably not, because she's part of the donor class.
Open a bag of chips. I mean, seriously. And I think that she sort of personifies now the ghost of Christmas past, as does Biden. The Democrats have got to move on quickly, haven't they?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. She's indulging delusions of running for governor in California in 2026 and perhaps even running for president in 2028. And I just want to echo what a lot of you guys already said. This past week has been harrowing for me. This Saturday, I went on Fox and Friends and I said that Democrats have a stench of loser hanging over them.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, there were boycott campaigns against me, unblock, unfollow campaigns. I lost 40,000 followers.
Really?
Because you went on Fox News, a literal Republican propaganda outlet, and shit on the Democrats? You're surprised that people that might have followed you who are Democrats are leaving? No shit, Sherlock. How stupid do you have to be?
4 days. People have called me the W word. I don't know what we're allowed to say, but you can fill in the blank.
The W word? Whore? That's not good. See, if they were in Destiny's Child, they get banned for that. Woman? Weeb?
Let's say it. Say what the word was.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Well, they called me a whore. They called me the C word. They asked for me to be deported. And you can just search for my name in those terms on X and you'll see a bunch of them. So, all these so-called Democrats, the party of inclusion, the party of diversity, masks off. And it's even worse because they pretend to occupy the moral high ground. At least with Republicans, they are who they are. But with Democrats...
Always remember, I called this out on one of Piers' shows and he had no response and they never responded. And they never will respond. Whenever you pointing to deplorable behavior on the Republican side, you point out people like Donald Trump or Matt Gaetz or Steve Bannon, they're actual figures, or Roger Stone. But when they point out deplorable behavior, it's like these people on Twitter tweeted this at me. And it's like, okay.
Democrats, they pretend to be, so loving and caring and embracing of diversity. But all of a sudden, when I dare to utter any criticisms of the goddess, Kamala Harris, I get ostracized. Me, after having raised tens of millions of dollars for the...
You know what? I'm curious. What did she actually say on Fox News? Let's look it up. When I dared to even criticize her. I wonder what she said. Let's look it up because I'm curious.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends. As President-elect Trump prepares to return to the White House, it is clear that the tech industry is, you guessed it, they're preparing for it too. Already, Amazon plans to make $1 million donation to Trump's inaugural fund ahead of Jeff Bezos' visit to Mar-a-Lago next week. Google's CEO is also reportedly meeting with Mr. Trump at Mar-a-Lago.
How old? This is 5 days ago.
OpenAI CEO Sam Altman will be donating, you guessed it, $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund. Oh, and by the way, Mark Zuckerberg's Meta announced that they're doing the very same. So the question is, what's behind the shift? Here to discuss is DNC National Finance Committee.
What even is an inaugural fund? What the does that mean?
Member Lindy Li. It's interesting because I think a lot of people are saying they're trying to get ahead of what could be more regulatory restrictions on them and maybe a bit of a microscope on their operations. What do you think's behind all this?
Kevin, it's great to be with you.
Also, this looks suspiciously like the donor class to me. Is anybody going to call that out? Hello? Could you imagine if you had this lineup for Democrats? What the fuck?
That they're doing the very same. So the question is, what's behind the shift? Here to discuss is DNC National Finance Committee member Lindy Li. You know, it's interesting because I think a lot of people are saying they're trying to get ahead of what could be more regulatory restrictions on them and maybe a bit of a microscope on their operations. What do you think's behind all this?
Kevin, it's great to be with you.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, the Democratic Party has a stench of loser written all over the party, and I'm sorry. And I'm speaking as a Democrat myself. This brings me no joy to say it, but I feel like the Democrats are going to be consigned.
Brings me no joy to say it as I'm smiling and excited for my wonderful media appearance where I get to shit on my Democratic Party and be loved and worshipped by everybody on the right for saying it.
To the wilderness for at least the next 4 to 8 years. And Jeff Bezos is probably thanking his lucky stars that he withheld that endorsement. And they're doing everything they can now to continue the détente. Remember what Zuckerberg said on July 13th when in Butler, Pennsylvania, there was an assassination attempt. He praised President Trump for being a badass.
Let me ask you about this idea of going out there and sort of kissing the ring. I mean, you have Zuckerberg.
Wow, she sounds so regretful. It sounds so agonizing to her that she had to say that.
Remember what Zuckerberg said on July 13th when in Butler, Pennsylvania, there was an assassination attempt. He praised President Trump for being a badass.
Let me ask you about this idea of going out there and sort of kissing the ring. I mean, you have Zuckerberg doing his thing, Bezos. And by the way, I was really surprised that he decided to stay out of the fray and not let the Post do that. But as it turns out, it was a pretty shrewd move. What do you expect will happen when they go there and they have these conversations?
I think they're going to solidify the relationship between the business world and President Trump. And right now, the economy is ailing under the Biden-Harris administration. I mean, people are just they're suffering. Yes, inflation has come down, but cumulative price hikes are still eating away at people's pocketbooks. And people
What are you going to do about cumulative prices? Is Trump's not going to do anything about it. Trump's already said he's probably not going to be able to bring prices down, but they won't care.
Dying for a change. So this is, I think we're about to embark on an entirely new era of prosperity. I certainly hope so. And yeah, you can just feel it. Even in the last couple of weeks, Americans are celebrating that Trump's approval rating is incredibly high. People are in support of his transition.
What are the numbers on this? What are people citing when they say his approval rating is incredibly high?
The momentum is just tremendous. And I'm speaking as a Democrat, and I'm feeling it as well.
Well, you know what? Also, as a Democrat.
I'm speaking as a Democrat.
You probably could acknowledge that the party seems to have been given, let's just say it for what it is, a bit of an edge, especially as it relates to Google. You know, the way that they manage their search engines. You're going to have their CEO go over there to Mar-a-Lago and basically try to state his case. How concerned do you think that
That's a member of the DNC? Yep. She was on the, she was either on or she was the chair of the Finance Committee as the woman's co-chair and Mid-Atlantic regional chair at the Democratic National Committee. Okay. So I'm sure this probably goes up and down for regional stuff, but yeah, she's part of the DNC.
Tech giants might be of a Trump presidency moving forward. Especially, I understand it. If you're a Democrat, you're probably like, hey, great, we've gotten sort of the breaks, as it were. How concerned, though, should they be about a Trump presidency?
I think the tech world is loving the fact that Donald Trump's going to be the next president.
Really?
He's really embraced crypto, and he's saying that he wants the United States to be the crypto capital of the world. In the meantime, Biden and Harris, they're clamping down on crypto, and it's a booming industry. People are upset. You know, this is their livelihood.
Yeah. Booming industry. Crypto. Super booming. Oh, my God. Oh, and they'll accuse Democrats of being out of touch with the common Americans while they talk about how important crypto is as an industry. Fucking kill me.
In the meantime, Biden and Harris, they're clamping down on crypto, and it's a booming industry. People are upset. You know, this is their livelihood. Yeah. Not to mention TikTok. You have all the millennials out there, you know, very, very upset.
Well, it's interesting that it sounds to me like there's this shift. We tend to think of big tech, especially in financial tech, as being sort of right, or make that left-leaning. Is there a shift to the right happening organically?
Kevin, that's such a great point. I don't think it's just the business world. I think it's across the country. People are fed up, and they realize that Biden and Harris, they lied to us for the past 4 years about the cognitive state of our president, and they failed on immigration. The expiration of Title 42 was the original sin. Millions of migrants poured in the country, and I am a naturalized immigrant myself.
Didn't the Supreme Court reject them bringing back Title 42? Title 42, I thought they tried to. Am I wrong on this? Beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government began relying on a public health law known as Title 42 to quickly expel migrants seeking asylum. The Mexico and Canada borders on Thursday afternoon, the Supreme Court dismissed a dispute over that policy and whether a group of states with Republican attorneys general can step in to defend it. The justices sent the case. Arizona v. Mayorkas is back to the lower courts. The administration dismissed the state's request as moot. That is no longer a live controversy after the policy itself expired on May 11th. Justice Gorsuch penned an 8-page statement regarding Thursday's order in which he complained not only that any crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border was not related to the COVID-19 crisis, but also about COVID restrictions of the government's efforts to exercise emergency powers more broadly. Okay.
Right. happening organically?
Kevin, that's such a great point. I don't think it's just the business world. I think it's across the country. People are fed up and they realize that Biden and Harris, they lied to us for the past 4 years about the cognitive state of our president, and they failed on immigration. The expiration of Title 42 was the original sin. Millions of migrants poured in the country, and I am a naturalized immigrant myself. I'm speaking as an immigrant. My family and I came here with $200. We never took a handout. We waited in line. We followed all the rules.
Did that? Wait, damn. I thought I read that she went to Princeton. Maybe she just had really good grades? Lindy Li? They moved to Sheffield, England at age 3, and then immigrated with her family to the United States when she was 5. That's a lot of moving around. She attended the Agnes Irwin School, a private college prep day school for girls, graduated in 2008. Her father's a real estate executive. Lee has a younger brother named Jeffrey. In high school, Lee interned for Pennsylvania Congressman and 2020 presidential candidate Joe Sestak. Lee attended Princeton University and was elected class president at age 17. She became the first woman at Princeton to hold the position of class president for all 4 years. She wrote her senior thesis on the ethics of climate change legislation and graduated in 2012 with a philosophy degree. Lee previously served as the treasurer for the Pennsylvania Young Democrats from 2017 to 2020. She resigned the post after conflict with group leaders over her Twitter posts critical of Bernie Sanders and his supporters. Lee alleged her resignation was a real-life example of bullying by Bernie bros. The club president denied this, saying that her resignation was voluntary. After the 2020 Super Tuesday primary elections, Lee appeared on Al Jazeera to debate Sanders supporter Linda Sarsour concerning which Democrat would be best to defeat Donald Trump. During this interview, Lee stated that she would not vote for Bernie Sanders if he became the Democratic nominee. Jesus. Alongside Aftab Pureval, the mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio, Lee co-chairs the Justice Unites a Super PAC, a multi-million-dollar political action committee that focuses specifically on increasing Asian American turnout across the country, particularly in battleground states. What did you say? My dad came here with $200 in his pocket? What, because the rest was in his bank account?
What? A shift to the right happening organically?
Kevin, that's such a great point. I don't think it's just the business world. I think it's across the country. People are fed up and they realize that Biden and Harris, they lied to us for the past 4 years about the cognitive state of our president, and they failed on immigration. The expiration of Title 42 was the original sin. Millions of migrants poured in the country, and I am a naturalized immigrant myself. I'm speaking as an immigrant. My family and I came here with $200. We never took a handout. We waited in line. We followed all the rules. So for immigrants like me who became naturalized Americans, proud and grateful Americans, it's extremely upsetting that people are just flooding into the country willy-nilly.
So it's
came here, we followed all the rules. How did they immigrate so fast? Or were they, I don't even know what the line is or how long that would even take if they had no family here. Because they moved to England when they were 3, when she was 3, and then they managed to immigrate to the US when she was 5. It would technically be even harder for her to get into those schools too, right? Because don't Asian people get f***ed in test scores and shit? Or at least they used to.
You said in an interview last month, because of the experiences you've had online, in particular with some Bernie supporters, you said that if he were to become the Democratic nominee, you said you would not vote for him.
Absolutely not.
So that means you would be
Jesus.
voting Trump, sitting at home?
I'm going to vote blue all the way down, except for president.
So you're okay with a second Trump term?
I'm absolutely not okay with it, but I'm also almost probably equally terrified and traumatized by the prospect of a Sanders presidency right now.
So it's But to the point where you would be okay with a Trump second term?
I'm not okay with it.
Well, by definition, you would be if you didn't.
I'm fighting like hell to make sure that Biden is a nominee. So
I accept that. I'm asking a hypothetical, which I will also ask Linda. If it is Bernie Sanders a nominee, you will not vote for him,
No,
even if
I'm
it means
not
a Trump
going to.
second term. Okay. Linda, are you a Bernie or bust, as some people on the left say? Is it Bernie Sanders or no one else for you?
So this is the translation of what I got from what Lindy just said, is that she doesn't care that Donald Trump will be able to appoint Supreme Court justices over his next 4 years and literally take us back maybe 50 to 100 years. So that's what you're saying, 4 years, and literally take us back, court justices over his next 4 years, and literally take us back maybe 50 to 100 years. So that's what you're saying, because you're saying that.
But what is your view, Linda? Linda, what is your view? Are you Bernie or bust, as the saying goes?
I've never been Bernie or bust. I'm not going to lie to you. I might have drew the line at Michael Bloomberg, but I know what's more important. It's not about my little feelings. It's not about being selfish and self-righteous. It's about protecting our communities and protecting generations to come. And I would hope that someone like Lindy would be part of that movement, but I guess she's not.
But just to be clear, you would vote for Joe Biden if he's the candidate come November?
It would be very hard for me, Mehdi, but I would do the right thing.
Way.
But I would do the right thing because that is the right thing to do.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Back to this.
The rightward shift, both in tech and other areas too. Lindy Li, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate your time this morning.
Me, after having raised tens of millions of dollars for the party, and I'm being called a grifter when all along, all these years, I've said on TV, I've said to the press, I'm a conservative Democrat. This is not a switch for me. This is just me. This is who I've always been. And also, my donors are pissed. They raised $2.5 billion across Super PAC and the campaign. It's my responsibility. It's my duty of care to ask what the hell happened with that money? Why did we spend it? Why did we spend millions of dollars on 5-star hotels for campaign staffers? Why did we spend $500,000 essentially bribing Al Sharpton moments before he interviewed Kamala? These are legitimate questions, but no, in the cult, you can't ask questions. And leaving the Democratic Party or even questioning the Democratic Party is like leaving a cult. It's
like, who believes this? Literally every single person. I hate that you can just speak these things into existence. Everybody on the left, all the Democrats and all the Democratic media are all questioning the Democratic Party. And also, you were part of these PACs and super PACs, and you were part of the DNC. What happened? Tell us. You're literally the establishment in every single way. You are literally the establishment. What happened? Who was responsible? What was going on? Tell us.
Terrifying.
Yeah, Dave Rubin. I mean, that's actually really unpleasant to listen to, isn't it? I mean, the idea that a woman who her only crime was to try and raise money for a pretty hopeless candidate, and obviously that didn't work. But the idea that immediately she raises criticism, legitimate and in my view entirely correct criticism of the party, she is abused in that kind of horribly misogynistic and disgusting manner. What does that tell you about where we are?
Sure. Well, I would say, Piers, we have a living, breathing example of that happening on this panel right now, which is that what she just illustrated there is a bunch of attacks on her character and her behavior. And
how did this lady even become such a political voice? Because she's a Democrat who had like a high Democrat position. Now she wants to shit on the Democrats. So it's just another why I left the left. Like Republicans love these why I left the left people, or MAGA or conservatives love these why I left the left people. You're like guaranteed like at least 15 minutes of fame if you're willing to do a Why I Left the Left tour. And she's like having her moment right now for the last few weeks.
Which is that what she just illustrated there is a bunch of attacks on her character and her behavior and saying awful things, and you can describe them as misogynistic and all those things. Look at everything that Cenk just said to me. These are just attacks not on my beliefs, but on my character, which again, he couldn't illustrate one thing that I say that I don't believe. I came out.
Well, he brought up one example, which was over the gay firefighter stuff, but I don't think we ever addressed that because we just moved on, but okay. I think Cenk should bring that up, but
woke up very early to the excesses of the left, what we now know as wokeness. I came out against identity politics, and I wanted to return America to what it was founded on, which was individual liberty and judging everyone by the content of their character, not the color of their skin.
That's such a boring, like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, what a brave policy position. Like, I'm pro-freedom and judging people based on the content of their character. Like, my God, you're so brave. What a brave individual. Like, how much courage do you think it took for him to say that? Good for you, dude.
Progressive.
You don't support identity politics? Good for you, man.
To what it was founded on, which was individual liberty and judging everyone by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. The progressive movement is wildly attached to something that brings...
A Q&A with Lindy Li, an ex-wealth manager running for Congress. Lindy Li, a former wealth manager with Morgan Stanley. Bro, how much more donor class can you get? What the fuck? To quote, make sure that everyone has access to the American dream, regardless of their gender or race or socioeconomic status, end quote. Li, 27, says that she supports Medicare for all, debt-free college, and a ban on assault weapons. This was a conservative Democrat? In Pennsylvania? She's one of 10 Democrats in the primary for Pennsylvania's 5th district, which is largely based in Delaware County, but also includes parts of Philadelphia and Montgomery County. We asked her about that, President Trump strikes on Syria, and the fact that she lives outside of the district, and more. 7 quick facts about Li's agenda. Her plan to create jobs, raise the minimum wage, focus on job. Okay, very conservative. All right. Invest in vocational training. Okay. On a $15 minimum wage. Supports it, but I think it has to be somewhat incremental. Backs debt-free college. Legalize recreational pot immediately. National job guarantee. Supports it, but I want to make sure that we have a way to pay for it without blowing up the deficit. Super PACs, they should absolutely not be involved in this race. Wasn't she working for one 2 years later? Budget deficit, stop subsidizing our fossil fuel companies, our oil companies. Does she say conservative in here at all? No? Does she say progressive? Oh no! did she say here? Oh, wait. We're at 27:55. She says,
Kamala Harris, I get ostracized. Me, after having raised tens of millions of dollars for the party. And I'm being called a grifter when all along, all these years, I've said on TV, I've said to the press, I'm a conservative Democrat.
they don't care. I'm one of those creepy people that go around turning off lights. I'm what they call a tree-hugging progressive. But they did not care about anything other than revenue generation. I'm sure there's some good people there. I don't mean to have a blanket statement, but just from the people that I was exposed to, talking about her time as a wealth manager at Morgan Stanley. Like, this is all like this feels retarded. This is what I mean. I'd rather just like go fucking goon all day or go back to school. Like, this is like this. Why? Like, who is this? Like, she should be excoriated. This is ridiculous. This is like some actual Chinese, like some Chi-Com. My mom was more right than I realized. I missed her, I guess, on it. This is some Chinese communist shit. This is some media infiltration. She was rigging elections. She was rigging elections back at Stanford. Or no. What was it? Princeton? Li attended Princeton University and was elected class president at age 17. She became the first woman at Princeton to hold the position of class president for all 4 years. Stop the steal. Stop the steal. What's going on? What? That was their training ground. Bro, what the fuck?
This is not a...
I've been a conservative. Listen how strongly she says it. Like, I can understand if she's saying like, oh, I've been like a little bit more conservative, maybe. But like...
caring. And any criticism after having raised tens of millions of dollars for the party. And I'm being called a grifter when all along, all these years, I've said on TV, I've said to the press, I'm a conservative Democrat. This is not a switch for me. This is just me. This is who I've always been.
Always.
And also, my donors are pissed.
This is not a real person. This is a Chinese plant. This is a foreign adversary who's been injected into our political system, who is on some high-level infiltration. I don't believe it.
Is $2.5 billion across...
To listen to, isn't it?
But on my character, which again, he couldn't illustrate one thing that I say that I don't believe. I came out, I woke up very early to the excesses of the left, what we now know as wokeness. I came out.
That was 6 to 8 years ago, though. The Democrats have changed a lot since then. You know that we were alive then, right? Like, the average age of this stream is more than 9. You know that back then, Bernie Sanders was never considered the conservative pick. He was the far left pick for the Democrats always, right? You know that we remember this, right?
Against identity politics, and I wanted to return America to what it was founded on, which was individual liberty and judging everyone by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. The progressive movement is wildly attached to something that brings everyone back to ancient hatred. So when you leave the left, as both of the ladies just pointed out, you will get unending hatred, usually having nothing to do with what you believe or you say.
Leave the left, you'll get unending hatred. Bro, this lady down here left the left when she was like 19. Bro, this lady down here left the left because she's 180 completely on her position. She's on Fox News shitting on fucking Democrats now after a few years ago being a Bernie Sanders sycophant. And then now she's like, oh, I was a conservative Democrat the whole time.
And again, I would just have anyone rewind the video and listen to the nonsense that Cenk said about me to prove that it still exists.
Well, Cenk, I mean, you did launch a very aggressive ad hominem attack on Dave Rubin off the top, which was your decision to do that. But in relation to his specific question, Cenk, can you say one thing that Dave Rubin believes in today that you don't think he believes?
Well, he listed the firefighter grift thing, right? The gay firefighter thing.
Donald Trump has YMCA. Isn't there a firefighter in there? There's a cop and an Indian? I'm not sure.
Hold on. Look, there's a couple of super important things to say here. First of all, in answering your question, look, Dave doesn't believe in any of the positions he believed in. Before he thought he believed in affirmative action.
Name one. Okay, he said affirmative action.
Okay, affirmative action. And now he says it's the worst thing in the world.
Affirmative action. I evolved. I used to believe in identity politics.
So you did change. But then just say that. Just say that you changed. I've changed political positions. Just say that. Why would you go? Look at how the goalpost has moved so quickly. Wait, what did Rubin say before? I haven't changed a single position. Name one. And now that he can name several, he's like, well, I've changed. Then just say that.
He doesn't believe in any of the positions.
This is why I would never challenge him. Like, name one thing I've changed. I would say, what do you think I'm being contrarian? Or what do you think I can't justify? Like, yeah, my political opinions have changed. Of course they have over time. I would hope people's have. But like, hopefully in response to like gathering more information or having a perspective shift or something. But why would you say they've never changed?
Since he believed in before, he thought
Name
he believed
one,
in affirmative action.
Name one.
This. Okay, affirmative action. And now he says it's the worst thing in the world.
Affirmative action. I evolved. I used to believe in identity politics.
Okay, so you changed.
Like
you asked me to say.
Yes,
why can't you
ask me to name something you changed on? I named it.
You're telling me I don't believe what I'm saying right now. You're calling me a sellout.
Did you believe the Russian propaganda you were paid for?
Oh, you are.
Did you believe the Russian propaganda you were paid for?
I was not paid, Cenk. I was not paid for it.
You were paid. You were paid. You paid a lot of money, over $4 million, I think.
$1,000 a video.
Oh my God, you clown!
Don't use the 100K. Use the 4 million. You clown. You dirtbag, disgusting, subhuman piece of rat shit. How will you call this guy a clown when you literally got $4 million of dirty fucking Kremlin money? That, like, how could you ever possibly call somebody a clown? This has to be like the least serious person that could, of all the fucking retards on this panel. And that's saying a lot, okay? Because Dave Smith here is heavily retarded, okay? So we got a lot of competition here. Fierce competition, all right? But even Dave Rubin buries him. Although I don't know, would Dave Rubin take fucking Russian money at this point? Who the fuck knows?
Do you believe the Russian propaganda you were paid for?
I was not paid, Cenk. I was not paid.
You were paid $100,000 a video.
Oh my God, you clown! I would recommend anyone look into that to find out a bit more on that.
Why not just say something about it? It's your show. You're here. Don't worry. Well, hold on. Actually, this is kind of awkward. Piers, can we just like move on away from that, please? I don't want to have to like talk about Dave Rubin's background and the fact that he's an American citizen that works in media that took over $4 million from a country that we're like almost in a fucking war with. Like, I don't want to talk about that. Let's move on to something more important. Are there any trans athletes we can talk about right now?
Cenk, how much when you took 1 mil from Jeffrey Katzenberg, what did that do for you?
Jeffrey who? WH Omega lol?
Did I change my positions at all? Not 1%. Not 1%. Okay, can I just address the point of problem here?
What position do you think I hold that I cannot explain my beliefs?
Jeffrey Katzenberg is in favor.
Okay, now we quality man. What haven't I changed that I can't explain my beliefs on? Okay.
All right, Jeffrey Katzenberg is a good guy, but he's in favor of Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris. I was against all three. What part of that is unclear? So look, Piers, there's three.
Okay, but hang on. Cenk, here's my point. The point Dave Rubin is making is, why shouldn't he be allowed to go on an evolution of his views? And why does that mean that right now you can say to him, as you did, you don't believe anything you're saying or believe now, when actually it's completely possible that he 100% believes everything he now says because he's changed his mind? Why can't he do that? And why don't you believe him?
I think that the left is scarred by people like Dave Rubin, who had a complete change. For example, Tulsi Gabbard goes from total progressive to total right-winger. On the other hand, RFK Jr. didn't go to a total right-winger. He still believes the things that he believes about the environment, about housing, about corruption, etc. So you have to be...
Why do we keep playing this game of like right-wing versus left-wing? Like, your definition of right-wing, who fits that anymore? Nobody is right-wing in the way that you're saying it in this country anymore. Why do you keep using these terms? There are no more neoconservatives. They're all gone. Why do you keep saying like, oh, they're not right-wing anymore? Bro, he voted for the right-wing candidate. That's about as right-wing as it gets. When you support the right party and all the candidates in that party, that's about as right-wing as you can possibly be. It doesn't get any more right than voting for all the people over there and then being part of the right-wing administration. That is right-wing. Like, what are you talking about?
Be able to distinguish between the people who...
Is it possible for liberals to build out a media ecosystem without populist messaging? The UHC shooting response has black-pilled me, and I think FDR-style honing of the populist rhetoric is the only way forward. Maybe, my dude.
Or doing it professionally, as I hate the word grift, but whatever it is that you want to call it, and the people who have genuine disagreements and genuine nuance in their opinions. So, for example, guys, there's three different branches of each party. There is the radical right, radical left. There's the populist left and populist right, and then there's the establishment of both parties. I despise the establishment with every fiber of my being.
We know.
And I've been doing that same exact program for over 22 years, longest running show in internet history, and we've never wavered on that. But now the radical left, unfortunately, is doing what you're worried about, Piers. That the minute that they see anything where you say I agree with the right, when they agree with us on something like anti-war, they go, oh my God, hold on. Let me finish the thought. And what people then say is, oh no, he's going to pull a Dave Rubin because these guys get paid to go fully right wing and then they'll throw their own people under the bus. So they'll pick a gay guy like Dave to throw gay people under the bus. If you see me going after Muslims, if you see me going after people that I've always supported, then you have an issue. But part of and this is not a pivot, guys. We've been fighting the radical left for 2 straight years now because they say absurd things like, hey, if the right wing agrees with us, we shouldn't do it anyway. We had somebody leave the network because they said everyone on the right wing is racist. If you agree with the right wing in anything, even if it's things that we agree on, that makes you racist and it hurts black packed bodies.
All right.
See, that's absurd.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Of course it is. I mean,
You've
the
got to
irony
get to
is,
a reasonable
the irony
populist
is that
position
you and
that the
Dave
whole
Rubin
country
probably
agrees
agree with a lot more than you're prepared to ever admit. You just don't think his views are sincere because he's changed his mind on a number of positions. By the way, I used to think I was liberal.
It's not just that, Pierce. You lied about us 20 times
I have
over.
nothing in common with modern woke liberals. Zero. Let me bring Dave Smith back in. Let me bring Dave Smith back in. Dave, look, this is part of the problem, it seems to me, is that actually, if people stopped the ad hominem stuff, they could find a lot of common ground where I think there.
What is the common ground that like the right is supposed to find with the like left? When have they ever found common ground with the left? And they're gonna say, well, when Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, like,
there's been a very rapid repudiation of a lot of the nuttier progressive left stuff. And you're seeing America actually through Trump, albeit through he has his inflammatory rhetoric, but you're seeing America, I think, coming to a far more centrist place, actually, which is why he's managed to attract people from all different walks of life. I think that's what's going on. And you're seeing the people on the extremities beginning to look more and more irrelevant.
You know, a lot of times it's about how we use these words and what they actually mean. I'm not sure that centrist is the right word, but I do think, to your point, you know, if you have people who call themselves liberals and they are blatantly opposed to free speech, which there are quite a lot of. You know, this has been very normalized over the last 10 years, really over the last 8 years.
The easiest way to tell if somebody has no fucking idea what the country means, what freedom means, what anything having to do with the United States of America is, and they get all of their politics from like fucking Reddit, is when they obsess over this retarded fucking concept of free speech. That's not even why our country was so great and amazing in the founding of our country. It's important, but it's not like the foundational fucking thing that all of the United States of America is like founded on, especially not in the way that he envisions it, of like, freedom of speech is when I can go on fucking Twitter and say any fucking thing that I want as much as I fucking want. Like, holy, it is the like most childish, like retarded fucking imagination of like, America's fucking great because we have fucking freedom of fucking speech. Like,
I don't mean to drive this into semantics, but what you're describing is not liberalism. I mean, this is just, and in a similar sense, like people who are, you know, anti-war or pro-free speech, the idea that that's considered like a right-wing position is just nutty. I mean, I think anybody who, it's like at this point, then these words don't mean anything. I think that in many ways, whether you call something centrist or radical depends on the current environment, right? So like if you were in the middle of Adolf Hitler's rise in Nazi Germany, being, you know, it would be a pretty radical position to believe in like Jewish rights. That today in America is a very normal centrist position that almost everyone agrees with. So what Donald Trump, again, I think the more correct framing here is the establishment versus the dissidents. And if you think about, everybody loves to brag about a convert. So when Dave Rubin goes from being kind of a progressive to being more of a classical liberal, everybody who's in that classical liberal camp loves that because they're like, look, see, this guy woke up and saw the light and he wants to be with us. And then the tendency of people who are in his old camp is to say, oh, no, he's sold out. Look, I'm not reading anybody's mind. I don't know. I treat everyone, I take them at their word. The point is that look, Kamala Harris was bragging about the Republicans that she had supporting her, right?
Oh, let's bring up Cheney. Remember Cheney? Hold on. Do you remember Iraq and Cheney? You want to talk about Kamala Harris? Hold on. Let's pause on the girl dick for a second. Do you remember Cheney, though? Do you remember Cheney in Iraq? Remember Cheney? How could Kamala Harris brag about having support from Cheney, neocon, Cheney, Iraq war? How could you brag about Cheney, weapons of mass destruction, Cheney, Iraq war, Cheney, Iraq war, Cheney? You remember when Kamala Harris talked about Cheney? Wow. Like, it's like a broken record. Bro, I thought I repeated myself on shows a lot. Holy fuck.
But who were the Republicans that were supporting Kamala Harris? It was Dick Cheney and his daughter. And you know what I'm saying? Like all the establishment Republicans are the ones who joined him. Who did Donald Trump get? Well, they were all of the dissidents. And
yeah, like the Tulsi Gabbards and the RFKs are strong, brave Americans that really contribute so much.
You know, Tulsi Gabbard, again, Cenk, I get your point. I mean, she has changed on several of her views, but might that have something to do with the fact that when she stood up and criticized the war in Iraq, the blood-soaked monster who sent her there called her a traitor to her country for that? And so when you have that type of dynamic...
You know that, like, nobody in the Democratic Party supports the Iraq war. That's not like a uniquely Trump position, right? You know that, like, basically everybody in the U.S. fucking hates the Iraq war now. That's not like a thing where it's like, oh my God, we needed Donald Trump to show us how bad the Iraq war was, because everybody's loved the Iraq war until Trump showed us the light. Like,
and you get viciously smeared in that way. What tends to happen is people go to a different group and they start listening to that other group. And maybe they get compelled by some of the arguments. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you that it's also true that you always have to guard against audience capture and perverse incentives and things like that. We all have to fight that force all the time. But it's also true that, you know, I remember there's some stand-up comedian after Louis C.K. got in trouble, and when he started coming back, they started insulting the people who were buying tickets to see him. And then they started saying that Louis C.K. only plays for right-wing audiences now. But their definition of right-wing was anyone who wants to buy a ticket to go see him still. So it's just like, what happens is that if one...
What? I mean, like, it's... You know what this is? You know what this is? It's the chart. Imagine coming from the past. You're like from World War I, World War II, and you're coming to the United States. You're like, okay, it's 2024. I mean, we just finished World War II. Are you guys on like, are you in World War IX? Are you in World War X? Like, did the country survive? Like, tell me some of your big issues in the United States right now. I was like, you don't even understand. You guys had it good. It used to be, the country, this world used to be so good. Okay, man, let me tell you what's going on in the US. So we have in college sports, okay, now there was a trans swimmer. Trans is like a man who thinks they're woman, like just it's ruining everything. We've got like affirmative action. Like some people we think, although we can't prove it anywhere, are like getting hired to be pilots who are like the wrong race. A comedian guy who's jerking off in doorways. People are making fun of his audience, saying that they're going to be right wing. It's a brutal world out here. Like I can't convey to you how like absolutely fucked this country is right now. Like we're in a total state of disarray because of how dire the situation has become. Like,
one group is insulting the people who were buying tickets to see him. And then they started saying that Louis C.K. only plays for right-wing audiences now. But their definition of right-wing was anyone who wants to buy a ticket to go see him still. So it's just like, what happens is that if one group is saying, you're a monster, we hate you, you're a traitor to our country, you should be punished forever. And
you mean like how Republicans called Obama and all the Democrats socialists for like 1,000 years?
The other group is saying, hey, we like your point on that. People tend to go toward the path of less resistance and find a new home.
Yeah. But I would also say there's something deeper there, which is that people on the right are much more willing to agree to disagree. So you can talk to people. RFK, he was running as a Democrat. And what happened? He got virtually nothing but hate from the lefties. By the way, for the record, I debated because RFK was for affirmative action when he was running for president. I'm not. We debated it on my show. So I can clearly lay out my beliefs on that. And he sort of at the end of it kind of admitted that I was right. You don't solve perceived former discrimination with discrimination of today. But what you will consistently find, what I know my good friend Amala has found over the years, is that as you wake up and...
I wonder what that even looked like. Hold on. Dave Rubin, RFK debate. A 1 hour conversation.
Aaron said to me, she was from Georgia to northern Quebec. I grew up fishing and hunting in the Adirondack Mountains. It's the oldest protected wilderness in our country. And yet 20% of the lakes, 1 out of every 5 lakes is sterilized. There's nothing in it because of acid rain.
What did they talk about Russia? I don't see affirmative action. Maybe they talk about it in another debate somewhere. 2020, I don't know.
That committee on the first day wanted to invade Cuba and bomb the missile sites. My uncle said, okay, there's 64 missile sites. The Russians have moved in, 64 launch pads, and their missiles are on them. Are the missiles armed? The CIA didn't know. And he said, who are the gun crews? Are those Cuban gun crews or are they Russian? And they said, we think they may be Russian. My uncle said, if we go in there and kill those Russians, isn't Khrushchev going to have to come into Berlin, which would have been the beginning of a nuclear exchange? And they said, we don't think he has guts to do that. My uncle said...
Wait, hold on. Wait, I'm just checking. Wait, is the position now that, like, should we have allowed the Soviet Union to install missiles in Cuba? Is that the position now that we're supposed to have as anti-establishment people? Is that...
I'm not going to go on your gut feeling. And he stood up to his bureaucrats, and the last day, they took one last vote. And at the last vote, they said it was 8, and this isn't in any book, right? But I know this from Bob McNamara and from other friends. My uncle did a last vote. The last vote was 8-6. 8 saying, we need to bomb the missile sites and go in. 6 saying, no, we should do the embargo. At that point, they had an option. And my uncle took the vote, and then he said, the 6s have it. So he was overruling his bureaucracy. And, the job of a president is to listen to experts, listen to good advice, listen to wise people, but to make up your own mind. And Trump was not able to do that. And he did the same thing on the vaccine, on all of these issues that were really critical to what he wanted to do himself. He said he was getting on the war machine, but then he brought in John Bolton. He said he was going to train this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because I'm like, oh, he's actually being really critical of Trump here. But I see now, this is because he was still running against Trump in April, right? He hadn't bent the knee yet.
He brings in a swamp creature who is at the spear tip of, of
I don't know when he does affirmative action, but whatever.
You leave the progressive plantation, what you will find is people on the right that you're told are evil and scary, like Dennis Prager and Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly and all these people, that you may not agree with them on everything, but they will break bread with you. They will be generous of time and spirit, and you will consistently find that. And there's almost no version of that on the left. That is just simply true. And again, there's a living, breathing example of it right here.
Well, let me bring Amala in on that, because actually, Cenk, I'll come back to you. Hang on. Let me bring in Amala in on that, because I've had the same experience. I find that I've interviewed a lot of people that I always felt were certainly way more right-wing than I'd ever been, and I really enjoy talking to them. I had really good conversations, and I could argue with them about X, Y, Z, and agree with them about this, and this. And the common ground was all the mad progressive left stuff, which most of it was nutty. But it was also based, Amala, on something you picked up on, which is a denial of truth. And that was the key thing for me. When I saw the progressive left trying to convince me it was perfectly okay for trans women, for example, to compete in women's sport because they're women, when in fact we all know they are biological men, and I respect their fact that they want to be trans women. That's fine.
Wait. I'm so sorry. Did I pre-watch? Wait. How the fuck did we get to trans issues? Wait, I'm so sorry. I stopped listening for 2 seconds. Wait, what? Wait, how did this come to trans issues?
That I'd ever been. Same
love it right here.
Well, let me bring Amala in on that, because actually, Cenk, I'll come back to you. Hang on. Let me bring in Amala in on that, because I've had the same experience. I find that I've been...
Imagine your fucking dirt under your fingernails. You've got like boots with the soles worn out in them. Your back is sore. You're huddled behind some fucking building. You just had another fucking hospital with children bombed. You're a Ukrainian soldier. You're tuning into U.S. media. Like, what are they debating now? There's like a fucking war in Europe happening, and it's like, today we're gonna talk about trans people again, and about trans people that aren't even relevant anymore. And trans people are gonna be what trans.
Interviewed a lot of people that I always felt were certainly way more right.
Destiny thinks the way that we define men and women is not important, because right now the definition doesn't matter, because all the men on your side are pussies anyways. Who the fuck cares?
Wing that I'd ever been, and I really enjoy talking to them. I had really good conversations, and I could argue with them about X, Y, Z, and agree with them about this, and this. And the common ground was all the mad progressive left stuff, which most of it was nutty. But it was also based, Amala, on something you picked up on, which is a denial of truth. And that was the key thing for me.
Denial of truth. Like, imagine. Remember the last time Piers was trying to get me to cuck and apologize for the exploding firefighter comments, and I asked, "Oh, hold on, I'll wait. Was this?" This was a show where I asked Rubin, "Hey, my God, there's us."
Behaving like the people who are despicable would be leading that type of rhetoric. It would be denying every single bad thing. How many times as a liberal? How many times as a liberal have you been on a show? Not you in general, but like a liberal been on a show, and you've been forced to disavow all the BLM riots, disavow all the violence, and blah blah blah. And then you talk to conservatives about
disavowing violence. That's good. Yeah.
January 6th. Disavowing violence. That's good. Yeah. Disavowing violence. Disavowing violence. That's good, right? Yeah. Right.
Oh, like conservatives disavow January 6th?
Wait. First off, there's an entire cultural machine that has lied. There is an entire
we just saw it in real time. That's it.
What?
That's why conservatives.
And the thing is, it's even a layup for him, because I'm clearly trying to prove a point. I'm clearly, like I say, trapping here in that, like, there's a giant fucking cave that says enter here at your own risk and prepare to be eaten by a dangerous fucking giant snake. All he has to say is like, oh, well, of course I disavow the violence on J6. He could have said something like that, and it wouldn't have set it up so nicely for me, but it doesn't even matter.
Conservatives about
disavowing violence.
That was
that's good.
Flag.
Yeah.
January 6th. Oh, like conservatives disavow January 6th?
Wait. First off, there's an entire cultural machine that has lied. There is an entire
we just saw it in real time. That's it.
What?
That's why conservatives deserve absolutely zero sympathy for anything that happens as a result of their rhetoric. That's it. It's so easy. It's so simple.
I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, but I would say this is the type of person that the internet has broke their brain, thus leaving them with very little empathy for their co-human. I mean, a good, decent father is now dead because of this. He's had his brains blown out because he was defending his wife and daughter.
What is defending? Okay.
Amala, something you picked up on, which is a denial of truth. And that was the key thing for me. When I saw the progressive left trying to convince me it was perfectly okay for trans women, for example, to compete in women's sport because they're women, when in fact we all know they are biological men, and I respect their fact that they want to be...
You know that, like, all the regulations basically have changed at this point, I think, right? Didn't they change the Olympic stuff? Or am I making this up? Or in some of the NCAA stuff too? Am I making this up? I thought they changed like 2 years ago. Oh, they've updated transgender student athlete participation policy. New policy aligns transgender student athlete participation with the Olympic movement. The resulting sport by sport approach preserves opportunity for transgender students while balancing fairness, inclusion, and safety for all who compete. Like that. Yeah, to be determined by the policy of the national governing body of that sport. If there is no NGB policy for a sport, or then be determined by. Yeah, they changed this in response to everything. Like, this is 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. Why are we still talking about it? Holy fuck. And also, who fucking cares? Like, you should care. I'm sorry. It's not that you shouldn't care, but like, this is what we're talking about right now on the Piers Morgan Uncensored International Politics. We've got Dave Rubin, the world's smartest libertarian, Cenk Uygur, star of the world's longest running fucking liberal YouTube show, Dave Rubin, the like most self-hating gay guy in the universe, the poorest Asian in America who goes to a private prep school and fucking Princeton for 4 years, and then somebody who's definitely not the whatever, I don't know, what were we gonna say for her? The person who had the political awakening at 19, who's now a star conservative for being so enlightened. Like, of all these people, now we're gonna talk about I guess actually, you know what? Based on that, you know what? Maybe trans stuff is the perfect stuff to talk about. What am I thinking? Okay.
Trans women, that's fine. And if they want to be called she or her or whatever, that's fine too. What you can't do is erode women's rights at the altar of this.
Like, what do you think more? You can't erode women's rights. How many states is abortion basically banned in now? What? How are we gonna? What? Don't we already have some people dying because of the abortion? I know. I feel like I've seen 3 stories. I don't know if there's more or if all 3 of those were necessarily because of the abortion bans, but I feel like I've already seen stories where people die because they weren't able to have an abortion and the complications arose and they got like
movement. And that is where I realized the left were losing their minds and losing their track on reality. And you said it was basically a denial of truth generally. Was that one of the things that you would say was an example?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had tons of motivations for changing my political ideology and rethinking things. Number one being the gay firefighters. That was the first thing that really started things up for me. But I think it's a combination of yes, with that example that you just used of this trans issue and in Title IX, we are failing to acknowledge how far left the progressive left has moved. And that's a big factor. You know, a lot of people say, I didn't leave the left left me. And you're sort of standing in your positions and watching as people become more and more extreme. And for me, farther away from the truth and reality. Now, you couple that with this feeling.
Like, this is the problem. This is the meaning. It's like insane. You've got like a group here and then a group here and like a group here. And all these people want to talk about are these guys. But the infuriating part is you've got fucking retards in this group who are like, oh God, these guys are making really good points. Like, I don't know, maybe we should kind of like move in this direction. And it's like, bro, who the fuck cares about these people?
Of being lied to in that you've dedicated.
Also, don't fall for the memes. Any state that has like abortion legal up to 6 weeks, that's an abortion ban, okay? Don't fall for the conservative memes, okay? Just because men don't have any fucking idea how human bodies work, okay? 6 weeks, legal abortion, that's an abortion ban.
Farther away from the truth and reality. Now, you couple that with this feeling of being lied to in that you've dedicated yourself to this ideology. You've worked to promote these ideas, and then you feel abandoned by this group. So we're building an equation here. On top of that, we have the other things that our panelists have mentioned, the smear campaigns, the attack that you get on the other end of even just trying to raise your hand and get a question in is just absolutely insane. And then you mix in a little bit of the acceptance that you get from the other side as soon as you're willing to hear them out and maybe accept some of their...
Like, these people are clinically insane, and they have the audacity, they have the gall. They will deny shit. This is the definition of a delusion, okay? Like in psychology, a delusion is a fixed belief that cannot be changed no matter what type of sense data a person is presented. I think is the definitionally not AI. Delusion is an unshakable belief in something that's untrue. These people will tell you that, like, Antifa broke into the Capitol building, that there was a Fedsurrection on J6. They have no proof for any of it. We have all of it on video. We can see all of the people marching to the Capitol on video. We can see all the conservatives talking about it on video. We can see all of them talking about the revolution on video. We can see all of them breaking in and having American flags, all of it on video. And they're like, oh, Antifa. We can literally hear them saying, we can literally hear them saying, it's not Antifa. We can literally hear them saying, oh, those people, that's not Antifa. Those are American patriots.
They don't own the AlexJonesStore.com. Let me say it again. They don't own the AlexJonesStore.com. They don't own the AlexJonesStore.com. They don't own the Alex Jones.
1776. Updates from people on the ground, independent journalists, and just regular people alike. Meanwhile, and here you close to the Capitol. Incredible stuff, folks. Here we're seeing videos that are being transmitted to us minute by minute as we receive updates from people on the ground, independent journalists, and just regular people alike. Meanwhile, and here you see them pulling the barriers and the police struggling to pull it back. This is not Black Lives Matter, folks. This is not Antifa. These are patriots, and perhaps they've finally boiled over. You see the air filled with the mist of mace.
And like, if they say that we're the party who's unfactual, that we're like, come on, this is this has to be like, historically, people are going to look back and be like, what the fuck? This is the type of shit. I've said this for a couple of years now, but we're past the point. But like I've said in the past, okay, we always wondered, like, well, if I lived in Nazi Germany, would I be a Nazi or would I be one of the good ones? Or if I was in America and there was slavery, would I be anti-slavery or would I be a horrible slave owner? Okay, what we're living through right now, this is the stuff that people look back on and go, there's no way that if I was alive at this point in history that I would fall for this shit. There's no way that like I would be repeating these like crazy fucking things. Not me, no way. This is the type of stuff that people are talking about, okay? This is exactly what people are talking about. It's stuff like this.
Same on the other end of even just trying to raise your hand and...
Is it true there was a court case saying that there were FBI operatives during January 6th? Nope. The funny thing is, the thing said the exact opposite. There were 0 FBI agents on the ground. 0. But they instead go with, well, there were FBI informants there, people who had informed in the FBI in the past, or to the FBI in the past, and that's their evidence of like offense record. There is none. You'll never see any. But also, you don't even have to think about that. Very rarely do I say self-evident, but we have millions of hours, maybe not, tens of thousands of hours of footage of J6 from how many different angles, from how many different phones, from all throughout the day, somebody would have captured. Where are all the federal agents? We would have more than a video of Ray Epps the night before saying, we're going to go into the Capitol, and everybody calling him a Fed, by the way. Like, we would have more than that.
Get a question in is just absolutely insane. And then you mix in a little bit of the acceptance that you get from the other side as soon as you're willing to hear them out and maybe accept some of their ideas. And you have a wicked combination for somebody really steering themselves in the complete opposite direction when it comes to their ideology. Now, I think if we're going to keep our logic intact, what you have to do is take in all the factors of that equation, sort of swallow it and stomach it for a little bit, and then meet the ideas where they're at and hope that you're being logically consistent without all these other factors of the acceptance and the smear campaigns and the hatred and the feeling of being lied to, and hope that you're driving yourself close.
With all these other factors like the smear campaigns and the hatred, the smear campaigns, like when Rudy Giuliani and then Donald Trump like called Ukraine and were telling them that you need to make a public statement. You need to make a public statement about investigating Hunter Biden with no evidence? With no evidence at all? Brother, we have you in 320-bit uncompressed audio, whatever. Like,
became president. We talked about it too if you want. Okay. And I can assure you that as far as I'm concerned, I think they should talk this week. I've already said that. But I can't. I just want to emphasize, I can't control that completely. Well, but I'll weigh in. Yep, you're certainly free to, use me to be helpful in getting the conversation to take place.
Does anybody remember the timestamp where he tells him, we just need you to announce the investigation?
Answering this letter suggesting that he thought the investigations were political. And then when I was set up to go there, I was ready to come. And Albania, this was a very serious thing. And you shouldn't feel terrible because it involves some other countries too. It isn't just Ukraine in which this was done. There are 3 or 4 other countries in which similar things are going on. And all we need from the president is to say, to put an honest prosecutor in charge. He's going to investigate and dig up the evidence that presently exists, and is there any other evidence about involvement of the 2016 election? And then the Biden thing has to be run out. I don't know.
And he's not even asking him to do an investigation. By the way, there is no evidence. That's why he's making a phone call as a private citizen to a Ukrainian leader instead of actually, giving tips to the FBI or doing something like that, right? That's why he's making a phone call as a private citizen to ask for this.
If it's true or not. I mean, I see.
But he's not just asking for an investigation. He's also asking.
I see him bragging about it on television. And to me as a lawyer,
fake news. He's not a lawyer anymore.
Sounds like a bribe.
Hold on.
A bribe is offering something of value in exchange for official action. So he offered Poroshenko a $1.2 billion loan guarantee.
All of this is bullshit.
Critical to Poroshenko's success as president. in exchange for,
Hold on, say it.
which is he announced that he was investigating it.
This.
Somebody in Ukraine's got to take that seriously
And?
instead of what Cenk did, which is he announced that he was investigating,
Oh, wait, hold on.
and then all of a sudden he announced he wasn't investigating. So that investigation of policemen has been started, discontinued, started and discontinued about 3 times.
I don't know this timestamp.
But I wanted to tell the president to be careful. Probably that's a little arrogant to say that. I shouldn't say that about being careful. but I mean, just as a person interested in, be careful of the people around you, because they can very easily is trouble. As a person, to see some people around him who aren't just opposed to the president.
Like all these once, and we are.
Hold on, I just want to play. I need to find the audio here where he's like, don't just to do the investigation, you need to announce it publicly.
Be ready. People are real.
Cenk, right. Got 73%. Make some statement at the right time that he supports a fair, honest law enforcement system.
It was very, very important.
It tells you how much your people want change, right?
Yeah.
So, if he could make some statement at the right time that he supports a fair, honest law enforcement system.
Right? So this is a private citizen working on behalf of another private citizen because Donald Trump, no, Donald Trump is president at this point. This is 2019. But this is a private citizen because Julian doesn't have a place in the government. This is a private citizen calling Ukraine saying, hey, can you have your president announce an investigation into the son of a political rival for me with no evidence, but I need you to publicly announce that this is happening. This is an unbelievable phone call. Also, by the way, and Rob Noor will never talk about this, but the bullshit CI confidential informant that the FBI was working with, who had leaked all the stuff that initially kicked off all the Burisma anything, oh, go figure, all of those statements were fucking bullshit. By the way, we've known this for for years. Pisco has brought this up in the past. Isn't it crazy that Giuliani made that call in 2019 and then, let's see, I'm trying to think. This guy went in 2020 to the FBI as an informant, and then the FBI investigated, the House subcommittees have investigated, so many different people have investigated, and they found nothing. And now this guy, pled guilty to lying about all of it. Not that any of that matters, but also we're the ones that lie, by the way, though. We're the ones that lie, by the way.
And stomach it for a little bit, and then meet the ideas where they're at, and hope that you're being logically consistent without all these other factors of the acceptance and the smear campaigns and the hatred and the feeling of being lied to, and hope that you're driving yourself closer towards the truth.
As you're saying all that, Mediaite has come out with its annual list of most influential...
Poor Dave, he's getting so fucked here. Look, he tried to talk that whole time.
Yourself closer towards the truth.
As you're saying all that, Mediaite has come out with its annual list of most influential people in global news media. Last year, I was thrilled to be 20th on this coveted list. I've just been informed I'm now number 15. Joe Rogan is second. Elon Musk is first. And the citation for Uncensored, I rather like this. It says, ever wonder what it might look like if Mehdi Hasan and Sarah Palin went at it? How about Cenk, Uygur and Douglas Murray? Piers Morgan Uncensored has you covered. Morgan is poised to thrive over the next 4 years at the centre of the action. I can't actually think of a better panel to be here as I read that citation now, because this is exactly what I'm trying to do. And funny enough, Joe Rogan, funny enough, had a little pop at me the other day, not in a bad way, but he said that he finds it all a bit too noisy for the debates we do. He prefers one-on-one, and I do a lot of one-on-ones too. But the reason I like this is I do think that when we get through it into the real nitty-gritty of what's going on in the worworld, bringing smart people together to thrash it out is a really valuable thing, and there should be more of it, not less. Lindy, let me just ask you before I want to pivot to another topic, but I'm horrified by what you've been through, and I'm really sorry you've had to go through that. I've had a lot of it myself. I always think the perfect...
It was my birthday too, by the way.
Well, happy birthday, and I'm really... Well, happy birthday.
Fuck you on your birthday. It was my worst birthday of my life.
Well, yeah, and it's, you know what, it's utterly graceless, never mind anything else. But you'll be stronger for it and better for it. And I think you've been an important voice in this, because the Democrats need people on their own side to put their hand up and go, hey guys, here's the problem, right? You may not agree with everything I'm about to tell you, but you've got to hear it.
Wait, hold on.
You've been through it. I'm really sorry you've had to go through that. I've had a lot of it myself. I always think the perfect...
It was my birthday too, by the way.
Well, happy birthday, and I'm really... Well, happy birthday.
Fuck you on your birthday. It was my worst birthday of my life.
Well, yeah, and it's, you know what, it's utterly graceless, never mind anything else. But you'll be stronger for it and better for it. I think you've been an important voice in this, because the Democrats need people on their own side to put their hand up and go, hey guys, here's the problem, right? You may not agree with everything I'm about to tell you, but you've got to hear it. And there is a stench of loss I would go further. There's a stench of political death about the Democrats. Looking at Biden, still the Democrat president, barely able to string a sentence together. Looking at Kamala Harris popping up when nobody wants her to, trying to tell people to fight. You just tried to fight, and you barreled $2 billion down the drain in being crushed by Trump. But Lindy, before we change the topic to the last one, where do you see this going? What are the Democrats going to do? Are they going to carry on villainizing people like you? Or do you think that the coffee is going to get smelled at some stage, and they're actually going to wake up and find a candidate that is more electable and find people like you a place in that tent to try and drive to an election victory?
Here's, I don't want that. I don't want to be a part of this tent. I don't want to be a part of this craziness anymore. They're accelerating my rightward shift. I don't want this nonsense. It's just crazy. And honestly, they're shrinking their tent. They're basically telling me to they're pushing me to bring my tens of millions of dollars that I've raised and can continue to raise to a different team that treats me better, that treats me with just common decency, that doesn't call me a communist spy. By the way, the communist regime in China killed my great-grandfather. They don't know my family's history. This is the first time I'm really saying it on air.
Oh my God. The first time you're saying it on air. This is the first time anybody's ever heard about this. You've done profile pieces. You've ran for office before and you've never brought this up before. Oh my God. I wouldn't be surprised if she was related to fucking Mao Zedong or her fucking self. Give me a break. Holy, what next? Are you going to tell us that fucking your family fled initially to Russia and fucking Khrushchev killed your great grandma? What? Come on, give me a break. I need to invent better stories for my life. I need cooler shit in my background. I'm gonna go ham. I'm gonna write up a whole new fucking biography. If we can just fucking lie with impunity about the most retarded fucking shit. Oh my God.
They are calling me a spy for the regime that killed my great-grandfather. Let that soak in just for a second. That's how disgraceful they are. Yep. And these are the people who call themselves the social justice warriors. They are dabbling. They are going headfirst into racism anytime someone dares to disagree with them. I don't want to
headfirst into racism. That's definitely the people on the left. Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely, yeah, the anti-Semitic ones. Yeah.
Be a part of this nonsense anymore. I want to be a part of the team that says men are men and women are women, and then men shouldn't play in women's sports. And I'm an athlete myself. I'm a marathon runner. I don't want to run against a man. I know I'm going to get trounced. That's just biology. It's science.
Of course.
It's not politics.
Of course. And it always has been just a matter of clear, obvious fact. And people who've tried to defend it, smart people who've tried to defend it, have been disingenuous at best and actually disgraceful liars to themselves and the world at worst. Because what they've allowed is this to continue to the point where we had that farce at the Paris Olympics when somebody who's got male chromosomes, reportedly, but it was pretty obvious.
That's the US's fault now? That's progressives in the US? Well, hold on, I'll be more fair. Sorry. He's talking about how progressives had infected the ideology in, where did that lady come from? Was it Albania? That's, I think, one of the most progressive, or the second or third most progressive countries on the planet. That was the issue, I think.
Battered one female boxer into submission after 45 seconds, and the poor boxer said she had to quit because she'd never been hit that hard in her life. Ridiculous.
Oh my fucking God. How do you can't counter this. When the host is this much of a partisan fucking hack, what do you even if there were 2 or 3 Democrats on this panel, let alone the fact that every single person on this panel is a Trump worshiper. Oh, sorry, Algeria, not Albania.
People will die.
Ridiculous.
People will die at the altar of this bullshit. I want to just pivot to we've got a few more minutes.
People have died because of trans athletes.
Ridiculous.
And the poor boxer said she had to quit
in the Olympics
because she'd never been hit that hard in her life. Ridiculous. People will die.
Ridiculous.
People will die at the altar of this bullshit. I want to just pivot to we've got a few more minutes. This is the story of the shooting of the CEO of the healthcare company, Brian Thompson. And
ooh, this will be an interesting one because I feel like Piers, there's no way he would support that shooting. But every single person on this panel, except for maybe Dave and I never can remember her name, maybe these two would be opposed to it. Well, let's see if we get a split here, actually. Let's find out what happens.
Something that the NYPD Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, said yesterday. Take a look at this.
Let me say this plainly. There is no heroism in what Mangione did. This was a senseless act of violence. It was a cold and calculated crime that stole a life and put New Yorkers at risk. We don't celebrate murders and we don't lionize the killing of anyone.
Cenk, a report came out that said a huge number of young people in America were actually fully on board with this hot assassin and approved of what he'd done. To which I replied on X, effing morons, which is what I believe they are. What does he come to in society? Putting aside legitimate concerns about the healthcare system, and I have more than any of you, by the way, because I live in a country where healthcare is free for everybody, and if you came over here and fell over and broke your leg, you get world-class free healthcare, and no one will be over you.
You want to know what the angle that no one's taking on this? If you were truly consistent motherfuckers, if you guys actually believed in the things you said, this is for DGG now, you motherfuckers, okay? If this guy did the same fucking shooting, and then they found him, and he looked like this, all you motherfuckers would have been supporting the healthcare CEO. All you motherfuckers would have been like, yeah, bro, assassinating CEOs is wrong. But you know what? Because he ended up looking hot, you cucks all got behind him. This is a pretty privileged issue, all right? It has nothing to do with ideology. It has nothing to do with the target. You guys just like him because he's hot. Fuck you. This is the Hassan effect. You're gross, okay? This is why the Republicans are beating us, okay, in the election.
Asking for a payment for the bill. So I have strong views about it. But that's got nothing to do with the cold-blooded execution of an executive. And this hero worship of this guy, Luigi Mangione, he's not a hero, is he?
So, Piers, I abhor violence, and you know that on every topic.
Oh, but Disney's lawyers in the Trump defamation suit against ABC were worried about SC, South Carolina. Oh no, the Supreme Court overturning Times v. Sullivan, where the actual malice standard for public figures comes from. Wait, really? Wait, is Disney I'm sorry, does Disney own ABC? Is that why they're... I forgot that Disney owns like half the fucking country. My bad. Wait, hold on. We'll read this after. That looks very interesting. Holy shit. Okay.
Including Israel, Gaza, I always say the same thing, which is violence is both deeply immoral and deeply counterproductive. It's a surrender in the battlefield of ideas. So, but as you see that poll, Piers, you can call them morons, and I disagree with them. So I understand your frustration. But at the same time, if you ignore why they're having this unusual a reaction to a killing, you're making a mistake. And the reason they're having that reaction is because...
It's not an unusual reaction. People have been saying LOL for billionaires dying forever. We saw it with the submarine shit, okay? It was the same fucking thing.
We live under corporate rule, and now both right and left hate that corporate rule. And health insurance is an excellent example of it. According to studies, 76,000 people die every year because they don't have health insurance, because they can't afford privatized health insurance. So the core job of the government is to protect us, military, police, firefighters, and yes, health insurance saves our lives. We're the only nation on earth that doesn't have universal health care. We let our own citizens die for profit. So that is the frustration that is built up, and now being shown in an unproductive way through this killing and the support of the guy who did the killing. But if you don't go address that massive health insurance problem, you're going to get more and more of this, and you can get angrier and angrier, and we can all go into our separate camps. But that's not going to solve it. What's going to solve it is...
Let's assume that what you're saying is true. What's the party that who got us the little bit of ACA shit that we have so far? It was the Democrats. Do you think the Republicans are going to be lining up for a public option for single-payer healthcare? Like...
ending corporate rule. And the number one issue is that the establishment takes money from those corporate donors and serves their corporate donors. All right. Trump and Kamala Harris took $700,000 from the health insurance industry to make sure that nothing fundamentally changed.
How much money did you take from Polymarket? You guys got a big Polymarket sponsorship recently, right? If you're saying that Kamala's position on healthcare was influenced by big donors or whatever, how do we know that your positions aren't influenced by Polymarket? If you can't show that Kamala changed the position or how to change, or there's some kind of communication or something, right? Then who are we to say that your positions haven't changed because of the Polymarket sponsor, right?
That is a core problem. And if you're a Democrat or you're on the left and you push people out for saying things that are true, all you're going to get is a weaker and weaker party. Let's address the root.
Why can the Republicans lie over and over again and not become weaker, though? What's happening there?
Causes.
All right, Dave Rubin, the poll was by Emerson College. 41% of 18 to 29-year-olds believe Thompson's murder was acceptable. The cold-blooded murder of a man, of a husband, a father of two kids in Midtown Manhattan is acceptable because he happened to be an executive at a healthcare company and they disagree with some of the policies. I mean,
did he say 700K? Yeah, wait, in response.
And if you're a Democrat or you're on the 100,000 establishment, takes money from those corporate
things. Opinions you don't like is that they disagree with some of the policies. I mean, if it comes to that, then if that is taken, extrapolated across the country, that's the future generation now in America. They think that murdering executives from companies whose opinions you don't like is now acceptable. America's in a very dark place.
Yeah, well, I can basically give you Cenk's answer without the but. There's no but there. It doesn't matter what you're aggrieved about. Everyone is aggrieved about something. Everyone has been wronged by somebody, a former employer, a health insurance agent, a doctor, a former boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it might be. You cannot take the law into your own hands, period. If you wonder why so many people think that violence is okay, again, I would only point at the...
Oh, wait. At the progressives, it's either going to be progressives during BLM and the Summer of Love, or Biden weaponizing the DOJ. I'm going to guess BLM.
Progressives who for the last decade have been calling everybody racists and bigots and saying this country's run by white supremacists and capitalism's evil and the very founding of America's evil, and then they telling them that climate change is going to cause the world to end.
Okay, that was even more retarded than I thought, my bad.
In 6 years, and a litany about, and that their genitals don't match their gender. All of these things have led to a certain psychosis in young people that's also connected to the endless doom scrolling on the phone and social media, which made everyone much more antisocial than social. But if you tell everybody that the boogeyman's coming to get you everywhere at all times and you live in a horrible place with evil people, people who want to kill you, then you are going to have a mass mental health. Man's coming to get you everywhere at all times, and you live in a horrible, more antisocial than social.
This might be the smartest thing that Dave Rubin has ever said. I agree. I agree exactly with what he just said here. Listen to this. This is a good point.
But if you tell everybody that the boogeyman's coming to get you everywhere at all times, and you live in a horrible place with evil people who want to kill you.
That's what you guys constantly say about the United States. The pharmaceuticals are the boogeymen, and the big donors and the corporate America are the boogeymen, and the FBI and the DOJ are the boogeymen, and Ukrainians are the boogeymen, and Jews and Arabs and everybody, like, and immigrants and the Haitians that are eating the dogs and the Peruvians that are taking over all the apartments and the MS-13. Like, this is literally your messaging.
Then you are going to have
the DEI and the woke and the trans dicks are coming for the daughters in the bathrooms and your children.
Everybody, that the boogeyman's coming to get you everywhere at all times, and you live in a horrible place with evil people who want to kill you, then you are going to have a mass mental health problem, and it's going to lead to people doing horrible things. But the second you do what Cenk just did there, which is so okay, we've got all kinds of problems, well then congratulations, anyone can go out there and kill anybody because everybody's got a reason to be aggrieved. We are a nation of law and order or not. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Smith, I actually agree with that. I think the moment you equivocate when you talk about something like this, you are opening the floodgates for everyone to equivocate. Whatever their cause is, whatever their gripe is, the moment you start saying, well, that murder...
Rare correct use of the word equivocate.
It was terrible, but, in other words, trying to find an explanation for why it's not as shocking and heinous and disgusting as it obviously was, I think you're on a very slippery slope, whatever it is.
Well, I would certainly agree that, and I've seen a disturbing amount of it.
He's about to butt. Ready? It's coming. But, it's coming. I can feel it. But.
Online and stuff like that. And so, look, like, obviously it's horrible to...
Oh, he used an and there. He's getting there.
Execution style, kill somebody. And the whole premise of Western civilization and the Enlightenment and everything that we should consider good and advanced in civilization is that even if that guy was guilty of horrendous crimes, well, he gets a judge in a robe and a lawyer in a suit, and he gets to present his defense before he is convicted by a jury of his peers. You know, like the idea that you can just execute. First of all, it's evil, and also, no matter what side of it you're on, the outcome of vigilantism like this is just chaos and an awful place to live.
But
I do think, though, that
I feel like those counts as but. I do think, though, that's the same thing as a but. I get half credit on that, okay?
For us, for people who feel that way, we should look at a poll like that and have a lot of questions. Yeah. And I don't think that, I don't think Dave is completely off. I think there has certainly been...
look, and it counts because Cenk is nodding his head, okay?
Questions. Yeah. And I don't think that, I don't think Dave is completely off. I think there has certainly been a bunch of toxic garbage that has come to dominate university life that is very bad for young people's minds. I will say, though, that as a society, we have put the young people in this country in an awful position in many ways where they do have legitimate grievances. Now, I'm not saying that justifies, supporting anybody being executed like this. But the truth is that the big banks and the government got in business to prop up this college, which is essentially a government program at this point. The loans are given out by the government after many years of them being guaranteed by the government. We've cattle carded these young people into...
Wait, what? What did you say? Sorry, every time it's just always so much dumb shit.
Awful position in many ways where they do have legitimate grievances. Now, I'm not saying that justifies, supporting anybody being executed like this. But the truth is that the big banks and the government got in business to prop up this college, which is essentially a government program at this point. The loans are given out by the government after many years of them being guaranteed by the government. We've cattle carded these young people into going into six figures in debt while they learn, for the most part, garbage. They come out of this, they're working at Starbucks,
Can I just get an answer to, how is it that the people that all get college degrees all end up making more money? What's going on there?
150 grand in...
What is he saying? Oh, it's just the old libertarianism is coming back, and anytime the government backs any loans, he just has to complain. So now we're complaining about student loans, I guess.
Yeah, my grandfather, in a much poorer, much less advanced economy, could go wait on a line and get a job after high school and support his wife who didn't have to work and raise their kids and have 2 cars and own a home.
No, he couldn't. Doing what? That is not true. There was no golden era in American history where a guy could go and get a job and support a family of 4 with 2 cars with no fucking education. What? Unless he was one of the luckiest steel mill workers who'd been working there for 2 decades and was high in the union and promoted to a good job. It was just never the case in American history that random people could get jobs and have all this shit. It is a single family, single person working. That's a myth. That is a myth of U.S. history.
and get a job after high school and support.
Unless they live in like Montana.
His wife who didn't have to work and raise their kids and have 2 cars and own a home. There is simply no path toward that for a huge portion of young people. And if we don't address that and we don't try to fix this situation, I think we're going to be looking at this very disturbing reality where more and more young people kind of celebrate the person who just went out and made what from their perception, somebody who was like in the establishment or in the winning class, made them pay. I'd also add very quickly that in the middle of that, just to add insult to injury, we still have Social Security, which is considered like a third rail that nobody, even the Republicans, will dare mention trimming at all, which is nothing but a wealth transfer program from these young people to a much richer group who have higher net worths and higher incomes and a lifetime of saving.
Yeah, you pay into it so that you get it when you retire. What? I mean, they paid into Social Security as well.
The way young people have been screwed over in this society is very disturbing. And so, again, just to be clear, Pierce, I'm not equivocating and saying like, oh, that's why it's okay.
Never mind.
Some of them are celebrating this, but I think we should recognize this.
Yeah, Amala, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I
Why is he? Bro, why do they hate Dave so much? Look at him. Oh, no. I'm 38 and after listening to enough of you, it sounds like you and I had a very similar upbringing. Hearing you snap back at viewers who don't know what it's like to not have everything is incredibly cathartic. True. I grew up dirt poor. My life was very hard. And the reason why I grew up so conservative is because my dad was tortured by Che Guevara when my family was making it over to the United States on the raft. And the only reason they had that raft, by the way, is because a free market investor capitalist snuck into communist Cuba and agreed to pay them fair market wages in order to provide them with the money to buy a raft that was manufactured with American wood and championed by American private investment. And then as they were making their way over to the United States, the only reason why they didn't make it the first time is because the communist produced command economy directed screws broke because the communist leaders who were torturing my family members was stealing all the good steel for themselves. I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry.
But I think we should recognize this.
Yeah, Amala, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with what Dave Smith just said. We should recognize the problems that are maybe underlying in this guy's motivation.
The problem is our whole country is fucked. Everything is fucked and ruined and destroyed. Right after Dave went on that whole rant about like, guys, you can't tell people are coming to kill you. Like, yes, our country is so fucked and destroyed. Everything is like ruined. Everything is horrible. Everything is destroyed. Please tell us more. All these commentators who are it's sad because like I can see like how much I hate this country, but like the beauty of this country, like all at the same time, right? Like how American is this? We're on a show that's hosted by a British dude, that's hosted on servers from an American company, that features a gay, I don't even know what ethnic background this guy is, media guy from Turkey who came to the United States, libertarian weirdo, a lady who came from China, from England and then to China, and then somebody who is, I think she's of African-American descent. I don't know if her parents were immigrants or not. Look at the wonderful collection of people we have here. And look, and guess where they all come? They all come to the United States media to do their shows, okay? Even this bonger fuck. Look at how beautiful this is, okay? Look at the concept of our country at work here. But now they've all used it to just hate my country. Her surname sounds African. It does. So I'm not sure what her background is. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I agree with what Dave Smith just said. We should recognize the problems that are maybe underlying in this guy's motivation. I obviously don't think that retributive justice is the answer in any way, shape, or form. But to somebody else's point, I think somebody said the response to this has been sort of unusual or dramatic. I kind of want to push back on that. I feel like this is becoming a common response to anybody who, we disagree with losing their life. I think for a lot of us on this panel, maybe one sentence that we've said on this show today will now lead us to our deaths being celebrated. God forbid they happen. And it's a really interesting sort of common response that we're seeing in today's time. I'm reminded of...
If I look up, like, do you think each of these people have made, so Dave, Rubin, Twitter, Paul, Pelosi, do you think all of these people...
I'm Dave Rubin, so excited about Elon Musk buying Twitter. Dad.
And when I mean the old days, I mean literally last week. If the narrative was out there that the Republicans are racist and bigots and conspiracy theorists and all that, there would be almost no way to push back on them because you would get censored or shadow banned or your views depressed or whatever algorithmic trick is involved. But now Elon owns Twitter, and not only does he own Twitter, so he's allowing people to say what they want, but he's also inside big media corporations evidentially that not only is the motive known to them, but only insane. That's the climate. Career ending. Many who open the door for the police. Why? Imagine you're.
So it is true that I like to.
to understand the dynamic dominating journalism. Few journalists have career security. Imagine you're a young journalist at a big media corporation. You know if you ask these questions, Twitter will explode and it'll ruin your career. Why wasn't there signs of forced entry at the Pelosi home? Who was the third person who opened the door for the police? Why was Pelosi holding a hammer and attack only happened after police arrived? Where is body cam security footage? Why isn't the press asking these questions? This happened often during Russiagate. I get texts, DMs, and emails from younger journalists inside big media corporations thanking me for being skeptical. They couldn't. One Twitter mob against them for questioning Dem narratives, see Dasha Burns or Bo Knows News, can be career-ending. Many journalists see the glaring questions and evidentiary holes in the Paul Pelosi narrative, but they also know how important that narrative is to Democrats right before the midterms. So why stick their heads up, provoke a liberal Twitter mob, and be branded? That's the climate. Police investigating the Paul Pelosi attack continue to say they do not know the motive, yet liberal thought leaders like Hillary Clinton and Jimmy Kimmel have decreed that not only is the motive known to them, but only insane or malicious people would question them. Okay, thank you, Glenn Greenwald, because that basically explains that there is a system of selective pressures. Young journalists that would love to find out what really happened.
So obviously we do the conspiracy theory thing, and then we've got all the conspiracy promotions. This is a strange sequence of events. The guy assaulted Pelosi only after police arrived and while they were watching, and he didn't use the hammer he was holding, but he used Paul's hammer. So odd. Stop. Hammer time.
Now to another case of...
This is the fake attack, by the way. That didn't happen. It was all just like a giant fucking gay meme or whatever.
San Francisco. We have to warn you, the video is disturbing. Here's Gotti Schwartz.
Hi. Drop the hammer.
It was a sudden attack captured on police body cam. Tonight, the video showing the moment Paul Pelosi, husband of former Speaker Nancy Pelosi, was knocked unconscious, struck in the head with a hammer inside his home.
What's going on, man?
Everything's good.
Hi. Drop the hammer.
Nope.
Hey. What is going on right
I'm
now?
not getting an answer on call.
According to newly released case evidence, the chain of events started around 2 a.m. October 28th. Security video shows the then 42-year-old David DePape break into the Pelosi home.
That's not true. He let him in, remember?
Minutes later, Paul Pelosi calls 911 with DePape in earshot. Cryptically trying to communicate, the intruder was looking for his wife, the Speaker of the House, without antagonizing DePape.
He thinks everything's good. I've got a problem, but he thinks everything's good.
Okay. Call us back if you change your mind.
No. This gentleman just came into the house, and he wants to wait here for my wife to come home.
Do you know who the person is?
No, I don't know who he is. He has his. He's telling me not to. He's telling me not to do anything. He's telling me to put the phone down and just do what he says.
18 seconds.
Okay.
Shortly after, Pelosi tells a dispatcher DePape wants him to get the hell off the phone and is disconnected. Moments later, two officers arrive for a welfare check to find DePape and Pelosi both holding a hammer, Pelosi also holding a glass. Pelosi rushed to the hospital with a skull fracture, while DePape told investigators he broke in to interrogate Nancy Pelosi.
So, I guess, what was your intention to go there?
You've never, by the way, most of you probably have never even seen this footage, and you've never even really heard about this, because it happened to Democrats. Nobody gives a fuck. If this, but we will play for 20 million fucking viewer hours, Donald Trump's ear getting glazed.
To make her change her ways,
Well, I was going to basically hold her hostage, and I was going to talk to her and basically tell her what I do.
And hold her hostage and do what?
And talk to her. If she told the truth, I let her go scot-free. If she lied, that was going to break the gas.
The release comes after a petition by a coalition of press organizations, including NBC News, was granted by a judge over the objections of both prosecution and defense. Today on Capitol Hill, Nancy Pelosi reacting to the release.
I have absolutely no intention of seeing the deadly assault on my husband's wife.
As her husband continues to recover from the attack.
Gotti Schwartz joining me now. Gotti, now that the evidence has been made public, what's next in the case?
Well,
of, the Titanic submersible. Now, that wasn't an assassination, but those people dying was celebrated all across the internet in a very disturbing fashion. And I think it's about this sort of redefinition of violence that we're experiencing right now. Your words are violence now. Your actions are violence. Your silence is violence. Yep. This CEO, the violence that he was committing on the daily basis was being a CEO. And I think that redefinition is really taking root specifically in young people. And when you mix that with the agitation they feel over their economic standards, the world that they're living in, the society that is increasingly becoming sick, we're going to see, unfortunately, more of these actions take root.
Yeah, I think you make some great points. Lindy, final word to you.
Yeah, and what's really rich? Leftists love to talk about gun violence, and I am a huge advocate for gun safety. But where was that? Where was that energy when this happened? Suddenly it didn't matter at all. Suddenly they were worshiping at the altar of Luigi with no mention of guns, no mention of ghost guns, which is one of their favorite topics. But all of a sudden, you can hear a pin drop because no one is mentioning it. And I do want to mention, if this guy weren't hot, there wouldn't be this mass hysteria around him. I think a lot of
if he'd executed a female executive, they wouldn't have.
It occurred to me that you argue for the colloquial definition of insurrection for Gen 6, but the legalistic definition of genocide for Israel-Palestine. Do you agree? Is it a matter of convenience, or do you see a reason to use one or the other in each case? So no, I don't argue for the colloquial use of insurrection. There is tons of historical evidence for what insurrection is. That's why we go to that. The Paulson and Baud paper has probably most of the evidence for it, or the Colorado Supreme Court also cites historical evidence for it. So that's not true that we just use a colloquial word for it. But even if it was the case that I did, it's because insurrection isn't defined anywhere in the U.S. Code, unfortunately. There is no definition of insurrection, so you have to look to history to find the meaning of it. Genocide is defined. We have a very clear definition of genocide. We have a convention on it, and we have definitions of it in the Rome Statute. So they're not remotely comparable, but
have been the same reaction, right? It was the fact it was a guy who was a middle-aged white guy executive. He fitted the narrative they wanted, which was...
Is that not negligent for the cops to stand there as they fight for the hammer? If he would have died, wouldn't have his death been on the officer standing there taking no proactive action? What do you mean? They're probably assessing the situation, my dude. You open the door and two guys are standing there, one with a beer in his hand and the other like trying to grab a hammer from you. You probably don't immediately know what the fuck you're supposed to do. You're just pull your gun out and start shooting.
Yeah, perfect hate figure for the whole health.
And we learned he wasn't even a client of United Healthcare.
Right.
Neither was his mom.
Yeah, I think this guy, Mangio, is a total fraud. And the idea that he's some kind of Pied Piper, Robin Hood figure, forget it. He's just a cold-blooded killer with a twisted mind who thought he'd make a name for himself. Got to leave it there. Merry Christmas to all of you. What a great panel that was.
You can say that again, right? Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas. We can say that again without being cancelled.
What? Has Biden ever said Merry Christmas?
Granddaughter. Remember your granddaughter.
Well, only 2, so I think
2-year-old.
You got to show up.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
It's so epic.
Wow. Cancer will be going. Color or pink? I guess.
Wait a second. What the fuck is that? Is that a Hanukkah tree? Is that a caliphite bush? What is this? What is that back there? What's going on over here? Is this a Kwanzaa growth? I don't know. What's going on over here? Holy shit.
To all of you, what a great panel that was.
You can say that again, right? Merry Christmas, guys.
God, you're so cringe. It's actually so fucking cringe, bro. Holy shit. You just should get like politically self-aware people. You just get like 100 of them in a room and just have them like watch people like this speak and shove coal up all of their asses. And you could make so many fucking diamonds. You'd be rich. This would be the richest startup in the United States of America because of how fucking cringeworthy these fucking panels are. Can you say Merry Christmas yet? Am I allowed to call him a woman? Am I allowed to call women a women yet? Am I allowed to call a man yet? Like, oh my fucking God. Holy shit, bro.
Merry Christmas. We can say that again without being cancelled. The mere fact we're all still here means the cancel culture is dying, and thank God for that. Thank you all very much, and I hope to see you all again next year. My next
comedy is now legal. Thank God.
This is one of President Trump's most loyal supporters in Congress. Like the man himself, she's no stranger to controversy. Like the man himself, she doesn't seem to care. Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert has been comfortably re-elected for another 2-year term. Here are some highlights of her first.
So I'll ask again. Did you shadow ban my account? Yes or no?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
So the answer is, Mr. Roth, yes, you did. I found out last night from Twitter staff that you suppressed my account for this tweet.
Suppressing an account is not the same as a shadow ban.
It's a freaking joke about Hillary Clinton being angry that she couldn't rig her election. Who the hell do you think that you are? Do you continue to assert the slope of the roof as a credible reason?
Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. For the first time ever, I think you gotta give me this one. Holy f***. Holy f***. Yes. Come on. Absolutely. 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 Who is it? It's Jodi Arias. Absolutely.
For leaving this position undefended?
There was no order to hold fire. Our agents and officers have the ability
to neutralize a threat.
You need to be fired. You do not need to hold this position. You are not the best for this job.
And then you take this microphone and
I've also seen the coal plants that have been decommissioned in my state.
But 100%
I've seen the energy regulations that have regulated my district into poverty.
Well, I disagree myself with the Congresswoman on some key issues in the past. In the spirit of Christmas, and for an insider's view of Trump 2.0, I'm very pleased to say that she joins me now. Well, welcome to you, Ms. Bobo. Welcome to Uncensored, finally.
Pierce, it is wonderful to be on here with you. And, when you're going to bring in some of my highlights, I didn't know exactly where you were going, but I'm kind of proud of those moments there.
Well, you know what? Listen, fair play to you. You've been a firecracker Congresswoman, no doubt about that. Sometimes I've cheered you on, other times I've cringed, but you're always making a lot of an impact. But more importantly, you've also been incredibly steadfastly loyal to Donald Trump. And I would imagine right now, I was watching the scenes at Mar-a-Lago last few days with the world's great and good, including many of his former enemies, all trotting down there to pay homage to the king. It's been a quite remarkable thing, hasn't it, since the election? The scale of the win and the way, really, that the world is now just gravitating to Donald Trump. How do you feel about it?
Is the world gravitating to Donald Trump? Is that?
Well, President Trump was announced as Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But America decided that he was our Person of the Year on November 5th. He won the Electoral College. He won the popular vote. We have the House. We have the Senate. He's rightfully returning to the White House. And yes, many people are visiting Mar-a-Lago.
Just remember all of this, okay? Internalize all of this. Internalize all of this, okay? We really care about the popular vote right now. We really, really, really care about the popular vote. That's very important because all in the past, they didn't give a fuck about it. There's a reason why. We're not a democracy. We're a republic. They didn't give a fuck. Now they really want to bring that up every single time it comes up.